I think we're good to go, Senator.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here for the first meeting of the Joint Committee on Cybersecurity, IT, and Biotechnology of 2025. For anybody who's just tuning in for the first time, my name is Senator Katie Fry-Hester. I represent District 9, which is Howard and Montgomery counties, and I have the honor of co-chairing this committee along with my colleague, Delegate and Co-Chair Ann Kaiser from District 14. Today's topic, we'll be looking at artificial intelligence and how it is being used, in the government here in Maryland and across the country. Um, Artificial intelligence, as you all know, is no longer a distant concept. It's definitely accelerating and it's here to stay, shaping how we deliver vital constituent services. Delegate Kaiser, would you like to briefly say hello?
Certainly. I thank you, Senator Hester. Thank you for all our colleagues joining us. Thank you for everyone else who'll be speaking today and for any guests listening in. And I just want to remind people that we in the Maryland legislature are citizen legislators, meaning that we hold multiple jobs. And just to explain that some of our members might be in and out.
We might have just lost Chair Kaiser. I think what she was saying is that we all hold multiple jobs, and so some of our members will be watching online, and some will be watching, later this evening. So the audience is actually bigger than it looks right now. I'd just like to acknowledge the other committee members who we have on the committee. We have Senator Cheryl Kagan, Senator Ron Watson, Senator Jim Rosapep, Senator Michael Jackson, Senator J.B. Jennings, and Senator Steve Hershey. And today here we have Delegate Terry Hill, Delegate Sandy Bartlett, Delegate Ken Kerr, Delegate Nip Kitke will join us later, Delegate Jessica Feldmark, and in case I didn't say, Delegate Sandy Bartlett. So we've got a great lineup here to look at everything that's going on. Chair Kaiser, we lost you for a second. Are you back? Did you want to finish what you were saying?
I think you had me covered, Senator. As always, you do a superb job. Thank you.
Oh, you make me look good, Chair Kaiser. Thank you. So the breadth of voices we'll hear today should give us really clear view of both the opportunities and the challenges we have ahead. And I'd like to thank all of our panelists for being here and look forward to a thoughtful discussion. We're going to hear today from a great lineup. We've got first a national or federal perspective from the National Conference of State Legislators. Then we're going to turn to Maryland's Department of Information Technology for an update on their AI enablement priorities. We're joined by Secretary Katie Savage and AI Senior Advisor Nishant Shah. Then we'll hear from three Maryland agencies on their implementation thus far of artificial intelligence. And then we're going to be joined by representatives from Denver and from Oregon State and hear kind of what they're doing. And also some perspectives from other states presented by a representative from the public sector at Google. So that is our lineup. I guess with that, I think we are starting first with the National Council of State Legislators. I'll turn it over to Barry Tabin, the Senior Legislative Director of Federal Affairs for NCSL. She is our resident expert on AI legislation and AI executive action at the federal level and how it is impacting states. Over to you, Ms. Tabin.
Hello, and thank you, Senator Hester, and welcome to everybody. Welcome, Delegate Kaiser and Secretary Savage and members of the committee. Oh, yay, here I am. Okay, so I do have a presentation to share, and we are going to try to get that for you. Hang on one second, everybody, and then I'll introduce myself. So let's see.
Are you able to share, Barry, or do we need to enable that for you?
I don't know. Let's see.
I see it. We're good.
Oh,
We see it.
yay. Oh my God. Participants can now see your application. Excellent. Let me just do one thing. How do you can see it here, but what I'm having trouble is how do I get to the next page? Because you can see the,
In
you
your
can,
own presentation, whatever allowed you to draw it up, you can just be on your page with the presentation and you should be able to scroll through
okay, hang
your own
on, folks.
presentation and it should
Oh,
connect.
well, there we go. I don't know what I just did there that enabled me to
Yay,
do that.
Delegate Kaiser.
Oh, okay. Hang on, folks. Yes, it's wonderful when the technology person. Um, okay, can you? Oh, the screen has closed. Okay, so you're not seeing me anymore, correct?
We can
Okay.
see your face. We can't see your presentation
Right,
anymore.
right. All right,
So you have to go back to the share button.
Let's try one more time. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, terrific. Now I'm all good to go. Okay, folks, perfect. So thank you so much. So I work for the National Conference of State Legislatures. I'm a senior legislative director there. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with NCSL. The members are legislators or legislators around the country. And we're a very bipartisan group. We are both in Denver and in Washington, D.C., and I'm in our Washington, D.C. office, and I lead our technology advocacy before Congress. And I work with a small team of terrific folks. I also work very closely with Senator Hester and some other legislators from around the country because I staff a technology task force and a technology committee. And I welcome anybody on the call today to reach out and learn a little bit more about that. So the senator asked me if I could talk a little bit about some of the happenings at the federal level. Specifically, hang on, let's see if we can. Oh, perfect. Specifically, President Trump's AI action plan and some of the recent executive orders that he's issued. And so, I'm happy to roll any way that you folks feel comfortable. I can do the presentation. You can ask me questions at the end. If you have something important while I'm speaking and you want to jump right in, I have no trouble at all being interrupted. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening at the federal level. I tried to think a little bit about what this might mean for Maryland. I have some thoughts I'd like to share about what's happening in other states. We have about 20 minutes, so we'll go from there. Okay. And hopefully we'll keep moving on the presentation. And you can see the slides, correct, everybody now? Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so let's begin. All right. So it was a busy summer for federal activity. And remember, I'm focusing on, what the president did. And Congress is always in the backyard too, right? Like thinking about what they should be doing and how they should be moving ahead on AI. We can cover that a little bit, but mostly we're talking here about executive action. So in July, the Trump administration moved forward with what they called a federal AI action plan. And the one thing I sort of want to level set right at the beginning is that this is really about how federal agencies interact with AI, right? So it doesn't have specific implications for state and local governments. It's really about federal agency activity, except, and here's where I'm going to qualify that. If you look at the second bullet, it talks about urging withholdal of federal funds from states with overly burdensome AI laws. So the one way that this action plan can impact states and local governments is to say that if the action plan mandates something and states and local governments don't want to comply, potentially the federal government could withhold some funds. And so one of the things the action plan says is, of course, states should be great innovators, but to the extent that they overly burden AI, the federal government can withhold funds from states. And I want to just briefly dig into what that meant. So specifically, the action plan talks about the Office of Management and Budget and specific agencies withholding discretionary AI-related funds if a state's law is found to hinder AI. So we're not exactly sure what it means by discretionary AI funds. There don't seem to be so many lurking right at this moment. But again, potentially we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And somebody is thinking about withholding money from states if they are found to have overly burdensome AI regs. Another thing I wanted to point out that's specific in the action plan, and then interestingly, I just read about this morning, has to do with the Federal Communications Commission. So, the Federal Communications Commission has a very broad mandate to advance telecommunications services. And one of the things the chairman of the FCC is saying, Brendan Carr, is that he may be able to, under that mandate, preempt state laws that have burdensome, quote unquote, AI regulations. In other words, to argue that these regulations, these laws are interfering with the provision of telecommunication services. Now, I've been working on these issues for a long time. I think, as do many folks, that that would be a very big stretch. But again, you can see that the federal government is thinking about ways to preempt state and local governments in the AI arena, and they talk about that in the action plan. So I just wanted to elevate that for you folks. Now, the next three bullets really had a lot of bipartisan support, very interestingly. And at NCSL, we've been working with a lot of civil society groups on the preemption. And even these civil society organizations came out in support of many of these next three bullets. And of course, one is emphasizing workforce development, AI skills in education and training, and measures to address job displacement. And I wanted to say that specifically what the action plan really did is talk about having agencies like labor and commerce and education, and then also state and local governments promote the integration of AI skill development in a host of programs. So, like career and technical education, workforce training, apprenticeships. And really, there's quite a lot in the AI action plan about workforce. So, clearly, folks have been thinking about it. They're concerned with that. This is both at the federal level and at the state and local level. The programs around the National AI Research Resource Pilot and the Centers of Excellence would connect an increasing number of researchers and educators across the country to critical AI resources. And that would enable them to rapidly deploy and test AI tools and then commit to sharing what they've learned. And that whole idea of testing and learning and sharing best practices is very much supported on both sides of the aisle. And lastly, the plan talks about encouraging regulatory sandboxes. And I think a lot of you are familiar with the idea of regulatory sandboxes. So it's promoting innovation without having to comply with all existing regulations. Now, this is at the federal level, but one thing I think it's important to point out is, again, the action plan is broad federal priorities. And with regard to the regulatory sandbox, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, he just introduced a bill effectively trying to make the whole idea of a sandbox a law. And it's called the Sandbox Act. It's S 2750. It's a federal bill, and it talks about promoting a regulatory sandbox, but not just with federal agencies, actually in the private sector. So the private sector would have an innovation. They'd be able to come forward and say, we want to apply for a waiver of federal regs in order to move forward with our, innovation. So it's a regulatory sandbox aimed at the private sector, exempting them from federal regs. So again, this gives you a little bit of an idea of how the action plan is being translated into potential law. Okay, let's go ahead and keep going. Oh, perfect. All right. Here's a little bit more about the action plan. So again, directing the National Institute for Science and Technology to develop some AI oversight tools and standards for evaluating AI systems. And this is the idea of developing some standardization for measuring and evaluating the safety and effectiveness of AI, and then again, sharing those learnings and best practices. So to the administration's credit, and I think other folks would agree, that there was a lot on standardization, on sharing, on research, on workforce that folks were very happy to see, folks on both sides of the aisle. There's quite a bit on streamlining permitting for data centers and energy infrastructure. And then interestingly, that's mentioned in the action plan and then also in its own executive order. So we'll elaborate on that when we get to the executive order. There's also support for cybersecurity via AI threat intelligence sharing. And this is really about establishing an AI information sharing and analysis center to promote the sharing of AI security threat information and intelligence across all of the US critical infrastructure sectors. And there's sort of, that's kind of interesting because at the federal level, we've seen quite a bit of cutting for CISA and some of these other threat agencies. And so it's kind of interesting then that in the action plan, this idea is being elevated. So that's something to think a little bit about. Also, a lot of discussion on revising federal guidance to remove references to DEI, to misinformation, and to climate. And then again, there's a section on how we engage internationally and biosecurity investment. So that is a very brief overview of the AI action plan. And at the end, in my resources, I put a link to it, and you can always go ahead and read it, at your leisure, so to speak, if you would like. All right, so now let's go on to talk about the 3 executive orders, which build on the action plan. So this slide is really an overview of the 3 of them, right? That the president issued 3 AI-focused executive orders in 2025. And generally speaking, the orders aim to boost U.S. leadership in the artificial intelligence arena. And then they focus on the key areas that the executive orders focus on are infrastructure, international competitiveness, and governance. And they focus on fast-tracking AI data center permits and exports, and then emphasizing ideological neutrality in federal AI governance. And, I tried to sort of think a little bit about what this may mean for Maryland. Again, there's no mandate that the state do anything, but it's the idea that if you see these as federal priorities, what does that mean for your activity? What might be coming down the pike that could require you to do A, B, and C. So it's not a bad idea to think about what you're doing in terms of data centers and your own governance standards. So now let's jump into the executive orders. Okay. So the first one I'm going to discuss has to do with data center infrastructure. You see the number, it's 14318. It's called Accelerating Federal Permitting of Data Center Infrastructure. And again, I linked all of the executive orders at the back if you'd like to read them. So this one mandates federal agency support for fast build-outs of infrastructure. It also encourages the use of federal lands for rapid AI data center growth, and it calls for streamlined environmental and permitting reviews. So let's just kind of dig into that a little bit. It talks about establishing new categorical exclusions under the National Environmental Policy Act to cover data center-related actions that normally don't have a significant effect on the environment. And it also discusses expediting environmental permitting by streamlining or reducing regulations promulgated under the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and then sort of like laws. And then again, we talked about making federal lands available for data center construction and the construction of power generation infrastructure for those data centers. It specifically revokes a President Biden 2024 order on AI infrastructure. That moved, I think, maybe one would argue, in a little more balanced way when it looked at environmental issues and innovation. The President Trump executive order is a bit more aggressive in terms of its pro-development policy. And then I wanted to note that I know that Maryland, and maybe this is not the exact thing you did, but I believe that I read something about the state also enacting some recent legislation, the Critical Infrastructure Streamlining Act of 2024. I don't know if that's something anybody wants to talk about, but there was some suggestion that kind of complements that you're looking at these issues as well in Maryland, just to streamline some regulations for data centers and generators, and other states across the country are similarly doing that. So just to make a note of that. One state that comes to mind definitely is Texas. So this is the data center executive order. Now let's go on and we'll talk a little bit about promoting the export of American AI technology stack. And I must admit, I hadn't dug into this one until I was asked to present here, so I did a little review. This is 14320, And really, the goal of this one is really the second bullet, aiming to promote American AI leadership worldwide, to strengthen the US AI industry globally, and counter rival tech influence. And a lot of what I hear in my advocacy and my work is the need for us to move, because we are in a battle with China. And I think that, in fact, seems to be sort of the goal of this executive order. And what it really does is it launches a comprehensive program to boost AI exports. And one of the things I read about the program is it supports companies offering end-to-end AI solutions rather than just individual components. So you can see in the first bullet, they talk about bundles, like bundling hardware, software, and services. Again, there's a focus on specific priority projects like AI for education, for health, and for agriculture. The program requires strict compliance with US export controls. And then to sort of elevate and enhance the program, there's a discussion about government-wide diplomacy with the countries that our companies will be selling to, and then a bunch of financing and other options for companies involved in the program. So tools, resources to accelerate deployment, and other marketing and promotional opportunities. And for Maryland and other states around the country, we're not entirely sure, but it could potentially be the idea if Maryland companies are involved in this program, that you're opening new global markets and that, you're creating jobs in the state. So that's something to think a little bit about. And I think something that I think some other states are thinking about as well. The last executive order, and this is the actual name of it, is called Preventing Woke AI in the Federal Government. It is 14319, and it requires AI systems used by, again, federal agencies to prioritize truthfulness. So I did a little digging as to what that meant, and it was factual, objective responses and ideological neutrality. So to not favor any political or social agenda. And to help with that, I just wanted to read something from the executive order. So in explaining this, here's an example they gave. One major AI model changed the race and sex of historical figures, including the Pope, the Founding Fathers, and Vikings, when prompted for images because it was trained to prioritize DEI requirements at the cost of accuracy. So in explaining this executive order, that was one of the examples that was provided, I think, to sort of help folks understand what the administration was trying to get at. OMB is to issue procurement guidance enforcing these principles within 120 days. So that's the next month or so. There are clauses to terminate vendors who violate truth or neutrality requirements. Of course, there's concern about diversity, equity, and inclusion language in any contracts that distort AI outputs. And again, with regard to Maryland and other states, there's no mandate at this time, but it may not be a bad idea to just see what a state is thinking and doing in this kind of, bias area, neutrality area, for potentially needing at some point to align with these federal standards. Okay, and then lastly, okay, folks, we're going to get to the next page. Perfect. And this is just sort of a repeat of some of the other pages. The idea that the federal government is aggressively promoting AI development and deployment, and then sort of kind of a recap of the executive orders, streamlining permits, pushing AI technology into the global market to grow our leadership, and then setting a federal baseline for AI conduct that favors a very narrow definition of what neutrality is. And then again, just the idea that Maryland and all states may be able to leverage infrastructure and export growth opportunities, and also think about their own bias and governance policies. And then at the very end, you can see if I just have resources, you can link to the action plan and all of the different executive orders, and then some other documents that I thought were of interest. There you go, folks. So I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have. Open to discussion. Delegate Kaiser has a question. And Senator Hester, do you want to field the questions? How do you want it? Whatever you think.
Sure. Let's. I'll see who else has their hand up after Ann.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Tabin. And I think I'm finally on camera. My
You are.
question has to do with the I just turned it on. My question has to do with the second executive order and about the permitting and such. I understand that the environmental permitting and some other things would be under federal purview, but I presume that most states or localities have the zoning authority in these cases. So what, if anything, is the federal government, what if anything is being suggested in this executive order to overrule a local zoning? Is there anything related to that?
No, there isn't anything related to that. It really is just about federal regulations. It doesn't
Okay.
discuss, as far as I understand, it doesn't discuss local zoning. And it's interesting, Delegate Kaiser, because when I was preparing for this, I went to look at, what is happening around the country with data centers. And I found that, some of the challenges, of course, with siting are, local zoning requirements. So the executive order at this time doesn't address local zoning. It just addresses, permitting and environmental regulations at the federal
Okay.
level.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I am not seeing any other questions at this time, Ms. Tabin. But if we do, members, when they're watching, either, now or later, please feel free to send comments in, and we will pass them along to Ms. Tabin.
Absolutely.
Thank you so very, very much.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Any questions, feel free, and I'm glad to field them. I appreciate it. And wonderful. Thank you for having me, and everybody have a great day. Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Fabulous. So we'll now move on to the next, our next section. I'd like to welcome Secretary Savage and her team to give us an update on the artificial intelligence roadmap for the state of Maryland and what we're doing, across the state. You guys have been very hard at work, and I know that you've got limited staff, but you've brought the best and brightest with you today. So over to you, Secretary Savage.
Good morning, Chair Hester and Chair Kaiser and members of the committee. Thank you for having us. I'll be brief in my remarks. As you pointed out, we have grown the AI enablement team over the past year. So we now have a team of 4, and we're looking to expand that through fellowship and internship opportunities that we've been exploring with the governor's office. We appreciate the opportunity to share the significant progress that we've made on our 2025 AI strategy and roadmap, as well as implementing the requirements of SB 818. Thanks to the excellent work of our team and the partnership with you all, Maryland stands to be at the forefront of leveraging AI and in particular to improve government services. We are going to point out today some of the innovations that we think will improve efficiency while expanding the accessibility of some of our systems. So with that, I'll turn it over to our AI enablement team, who will tell you more about the state's progress.
Thank you, Secretary Savage. I'm Nishant. I'm a Senior Advisor for Responsible AI at Do It. I think I've met many of the folks on this call, and it's great to see many of you again. As Secretary Savage mentioned, we've got a small but mighty team today presenting, including Ray Bell, who leads our product work around AIML, Solomon, who leads AI governance, and Lauren, who is a senior program manager on our team. Next slide, please. So here's our agenda for today. Our goal is really to give you a strong sense of our progress on AI enablement efforts across the state. And there's a lot happening right now. It feels like things are changing weekly, some bottom up, some top down, some Do It led, others led by sister agencies. But hopefully this gives you a feel for where we are. Next slide. So I think most folks on this call have probably heard Secretary Savage or I say this a number of times now, but I think it's worth reiterating what we're working towards. Our vision is, the state of Maryland responsibly, ethically, productively leverages AI ML technologies to significantly improve constituent outcomes and reduce drudgery for the state workforce. And we really do this by building a robust and adaptable policy, process, technical, talent, and cultural foundation that'll serve Maryland no matter the direction that AI ML technologies evolve. Next slide, please. So no, I think those are, pretty obvious things to shoot for. But I think the crucial element here really is, are we building and enabling AI in a way that A, really takes into account how fast the technology is changing, B, that meets agencies where they are today, and C, does so in a way that starts accruing the benefits of AI in the state while mitigating the risks and avoiding lock-in. So on that front, we launched the AI enablement team back in January, and our charter is really to build foundations, incubate approaches, create policy and guidance, advise agencies, and then catalyze experimentation to drive responsible adoption. We're a very small team, so what we need to focus on at any given time is essentially what is most high leverage. And our work this year has focused on pushing forward the 2025 AI strategy and roadmap that the AI subcabinet published in January, and ensuring also that we've implemented all the requirements of SB 818, the AI Governance Act of 2024. And so we'll leverage the remainder of this presentation for the various folks on the AI enablement team to discuss progress against each one of the 5 pillars of the 2025 strategy. Now, the first pillar of the strategy is really the foundation for all the rest. Build a governance infrastructure that lets us mitigate risks, ensure transparency, and move confidently towards more ambitious uses of AI to solve agency problems. So Dr. Solomon Abiola is our brilliant lead for conceptualizing and building out and operationalizing this infrastructure. Solomon, over to you.
Cool. Thank you for that intro, Nishant. So I will talk about some of the progress if we go to the next, that we've been making on the responsible AI policy. So earlier last year, we had the interim guidance. This year, we were able to ship the responsible AI policy, which replaces last year's AI interim guidance, and enables AI agencies to basically safeguard against harms. Now, one of the key things that's in this policy is really trying to focus on a classification system for risk, that being unacceptable use cases of AI, which are covered in the executive order in SB 818, but really trying to get agencies to understand what is high risk, what is limited risk, and what is minimal risk. And to that effort, we provided additional implementation guidance to really give specific examples and help agencies in their journey as they think around safeguards, thinking around data classification, and how that pertains to the actual usage of AI. So if you go to the next slide. So we created a intake process, and that's outlined in our guidance document that's publicly available on the Do It website. But really, this was designed to capture AI use cases. And the step 1 of that was really trying to build out our AI inventory, which we understand is due later this year. But first, we had to be able to assign risk of new use cases that were coming in through our classification policies. And being an AI enablement team, one of the things we really have leaned into is leveraging some of our AI solutions to actually dog food our technology. So what that means is we've taken our AI policy, our guidance, and so forth, and we've put that into an AI service that internally we have used to help accelerate the review of AI items and help improve our overall intake process. We've also supplemented the policies with additional AI guidance in the form of basically short cards that we call them. They're a little bit stronger than a memo, but lighter than a policy, and they really focus on specific AI use cases. So one of the really big ones that has come up is obviously using AI for transcription. We're a 2-party consent state. And so we really put out guidance to agencies around how can they use some of the Gemini recording software and also be respectful of our state laws and policies. In addition to that, we've put out guidance around using enterprise tools like Gemini itself. And as we look towards the future, we're putting out additional guidance around how we can start using AI in coding assistance and other applications. So if you move to the next slide. So all of this is set, obviously the foundation for us being able to build out a strong AI inventory. And part of that, is obviously being driven by, we have to comply with legislation here, but really it's allowing our agencies to also see the art of the possible, what other agencies are doing. We are almost at 100 AI use cases. We're working very closely with agencies that are exploring high-risk use cases. But I will be clear that none of those cases are currently in production. But part of that process involves doing things like a privacy impact assessment, algorithmic impact assessment, and really making sure that these AI use cases are in compliance with both our AI policy, the executive order, and SB 818. We are aiming in the next few months to make this publicly available in December per legislation. And my colleague Lauren will talk later about some of the efforts that are going to be in place to make that publicly accessible. So with that, I will turn it over back to you, Nishant.
Fantastic. Thank you, Solomon. So in addition to AI governance, a crucial foundation for building AI that works is the state of our data. And I believe a number of you were at the data workshop a few weeks ago, hosted by Senator Hester and our state chief data officer, Natalie Evans-Harris. And the work covered during that workshop is really the work of this pillar, primarily led by Natalie, to ensure that the state's data is ready to power AI systems and sort of avoid this garbage in, garbage out scenario. And we've made progress on a number of fronts here. The Office of Enterprise Data has shipped a data classification policy, for example, which is a crucial policy to have in place that our responsible AI policy builds on top of. It essentially determines the risk level of the data that to be used in an AI system, which then determines the guardrails that it needs. OED has also identified authoritative data sources across the state, and these are those data sets that are particularly foundational to state workflows. So these are, the clear places to target to increase quality, catalyze data sharing, and reduce duplication. And from an AI perspective, this helps essentially point the way to data sets that are particularly helpful in powering AI systems. We're also in the midst of drafting a data readiness policy for AI. That is a set of criteria that spells out exactly how to use data in AI systems and provides an artifact and checklist for agencies to follow when building proofs of concept or scaling a solution. And I'm particularly excited about this one because it'll be in a sort of very actionable part of the playbook that agencies can use when building AI solutions. And finally, OED is launching a data academy, which will upskill state data professionals in a lot of different ways, but which will also include AI modules and more around upskilling in just a bit in Lauren's section as well. So in aggregate, these pieces get us further along the maturity curve so that state data sets have pathways to becoming AI ready. So moving on to our third strategic pillar, building momentum around experimentation and adoption. This is really the crux of the work. We've made a lot of strides here, from building out the AI enablement team to establishing and executing a range of experimentation channels, to rolling out tools, to building playbooks. And our great AI/ML product director, Dr. Ray Bell, really takes point on a lot of these efforts from DoIT's end. So Ray, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nishant. Good morning, Senator Hester, Chair Hester and Chair Kaiser, as well as the committee members. It's a pleasure to be here today to present to you all. For those of you who haven't met you, my name is Ray Bell. As Nishant said, I'm the AI/ML product director. I joined the state in January, and I've been incredibly excited to be a part of this increasingly accelerated journey that the AI enablement team is doing in terms of allowing folks to use AI responsibly and productively in the state. I'm going to start after what Solomon said, speaking about intake and how we are being increasingly focused in terms of the momentum in which we are offering. As tickets are coming in through intake, we are taking a proactive approach in terms of what people are asking for, what they currently have access to, things they want to do. So the top bullet point here is really saying that we're going to take a holistic approach as an agency and as a state to kind of centrally think about where does the Department of IT manage enterprise AI tools, what does that fit in, and how do they solve that? I really look forward to taking on that work. This year has been a really foundational year for us to offer enterprise AI tools to our workforce. So starting around springtime, Google offered Gemini available at no cost. And this is really a success story of the Department of IT. So I want to take a moment just to talk about this rollout and the steps that we took to do this with best practices in mind. First of all, it was an approach kind of with the best minds of the Department of IT. So we put together AI, security, privacy, legal, to come together and say, is this something that we want to offer? Is this something we want to assess and ensure that this adheres to our security, our privacies? How can we monitor its usage? Once the Tiger team kind of agreed upon that this is a useful thing, we can roll it out to the Department of IT. And then we've also done monitoring and governance upon this. So we could see how people are using it, what are they using it for, those types of things. I would say this has been a great opportunity for us to work with various CIOs across the state. We've given them a choice of if, when, how they would like to use this. And we've really been a sounding board for questions that come up. We're happy to answer their concerns or issues. And those CIOs who have used this, rolled it out to their workforce, they've been incredibly supportive of this and saying it really has been a fundamental change into allowing their workforce to do more with less. As some statistics on this, about 1 in 4 state employees use it today. And we're talking about note-taking and brainstorming, meeting transcriptions, very much in the kind of low-level summarization tasks, which allows folks just to achieve more with less and allow to use this tool and have them learn by doing. Next slide, please. As I was mentioning, in terms of the governance and monitoring, we have really set this up so we have good governance and monitoring that we can provide these types of dashboards to IT leads across the state, and they can think about AI enablement within their agencies. So we can track things such as the applications people are using it, adoption, things like that. This has really been great in terms of enterprise AI, and it improves the security posture of the state where we know things are not leaving our trust boundaries. Next slide, please. Just to speak to a deep dive on a couple of these things. Various different agencies can tell their own story on this, but I'm going to speak to a couple that I got their approval to do so. The Department of Human Services CIO, Dr. Dave Sloan, has been an incredible champion for us for AI enablement within the state. As he arrived this year, he was very excited to learn about the potential of the AI tools that Department of IT can offer him and his workforce, and the things that he can use it for. Just to give 2 examples, him and his team are using it as a research tool to help them with web discovery and summarization. And he's also thinking about personalized learning paths. So he has some very interesting AI applications to share. And he said to me that there will be lots more interesting things to come soon as well. Next slide, please, Sarah. Another example I want to share is the Department of Disabilities. The Department of Disabilities had an application which they created here to explore using Gemini to ensure documents and websites are accessible. This is an example of an internal chatbot that they launched and rolled out to some of their colleagues to test here, to do things such as check that HTML code is accessible. And this was something that has been made available from the Department of IT and really allows them to go slowly and productively here to make sure to check the answers are what they expect and how to use it. These are examples where things that were just not available to other agencies a year ago. Next slide, please. Okay, so I previously talked about what I like to bucket as AI for general productivity. I would say this is very much raising the floor of agencies in terms of AI learning. Now I want to talk about some AI applications. And this is really, really where we can raise the ceiling in terms of what AI can help with and how it can impact our constituents. This is not an exhaustive list. This is a couple of applications that folks are willing to share at this moment. And I want to speak to some of the great work that AI is doing. You'll also hear from other departments later today as well, who could speak about their use cases more. The first one I want to talk about is the Sunbox chatbot. Sorry, previous slides there. Thanks. This is an example where Maryland Benefits put together a chatbot on a website, which acts as a 24/7 customer service tool. It allows folks to get their FAQ questions answered and other benefits questions around the clock in English and in Spanish. They've had 16,000 users since June, and they're also thinking about this in a platform-specific approach. So this isn't just a one-off chatbot. They are thinking of a modular approach of how we can offer chatbots to other agencies. Next slide, please. Another example I want to share is something that we did in the AI enablement team. One reason I'd like to think that Advisor Shaw and Secretary Savage hired me is that because myself and our team can wear various different hats. And this is one example where we are not afraid to put our hands on keys and do a bit of coding. I have a software engineer background. In this specific example, we were seeing intake tickets come in for various different meeting transcription tools. As you're aware, there is probably a new meeting transcription tool every week and have various different functionalities. And we realized that this is really an opportunity to be a possible build solution where we want to reduce IT sprawl, reduce spend, and increase the state's security posture by using open source tools to do stuff in-house with our existing technology. In this case, we helped folks with a notebook to do summarization of their public meetings, which are hosted on YouTube. Agencies have thousands of hours of public meetings on YouTube, and how do we make these meetings more accessible? And I think like this was a great story where folks who had never coded in their life before, we were able to provide them with this tool. And it was almost like, hit a button, run, and they were just amazed by it, how useful and accurate it was. Next slide, please. We have a project currently taking place with the Maryland Department of Environment, and we have philanthropy funding from the Rockefeller Foundation. Maryland Department of Environment currently has a kind of slow, arduous manual task of folks trying to find various different information acts or understanding about pollution at various different sites. MDE wanted to understand if AI could help them automate this process and allow the public to self-serve. So instead of these PIA requests taking weeks, they could be much shorter. Okay, next slide. An example of, all right, do you want me to skip over these, Sarah? Sorry, if you go back a bit, if you're happy for me to continue speaking, otherwise if we are short on time, I'm happy to pass it on.
I think you're good, right? You go.
All right, if you can go back one more, Sarah. Thank you very much. This example here is with the Department of Environment with philanthropy funding from Rockefeller Foundation. What this philanthropy company is trying to help the department do is to use AI to help summarize and understand kind of existing PIA requests, use natural language to find, if I'm opening up a new business, I want to see if there was pollution in the area beforehand. Can we use AI to bubble up that information that exists previously? Okay, next slide, please. Another application I want to talk about, which is being led by the Maryland Digital Services, is AI for plain language. The state released an executive order on plain language initiatives last year, and we are aware that AI can help with plain language if done responsibly. So this is ensuring that responses are checked, and the benefit or the approach that the Maryland Digital Service here was, can we inject plain language standards to AI and agency-specific content, so that this isn't just, ChatGPT or any kind of public chatbot. It's really refined to making the changes where it needs to, keeping legal content the same, and things like that. And the Maryland Digital Services team is exploring rolling this out to different agencies across a number of different pilots. Next slide, please. The last example I'll talk about here is the innovation team, which sits in the governor's office. This has been an incredible team to partner with, and we're really happy to see the approach that they are taking to explore, use AI in various different projects that are very important to the governor's priorities. One example I want to share with them is they have been looking at using AI to understand the needs of various different communities across the state. So this information is kind of locked up in thousands of pages of PDF in terms of what infrastructure is in place or community services are in place across the state, and also use it to help them assess the community voice as well, what folks are saying about different parts of their state. AI was a perfect opportunity here where they could analyze, almost 20,000 pages of PDF here and kind of bring out common issues in certain areas to identify common needs. All right, next slide. Thank you very much, and back to you, Nishant.
All right, thank you, Ray. Really appreciate that. And as Ray mentioned, that's just a smattering of use cases. We've supported each of those in different ways, from governance to advice to technical infrastructure. And now sort of moving to this fourth pillar, this is really increasing the state's AIQ. And AIQ is our shorthand for deepening the state's AI literacy, our talent, our expertise, and the community around this work. And our fantastic AI/ML senior program manager, Lauren Maffeo, really leads on a lot of these efforts. So Lauren, we might have to move a little bit quickly through this, but over to you.
Understood. Thanks, Nishant. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for attending this morning. I'm thrilled to share the progress that we've made as an AI enablement team on increasing the state's AI IQ. What we mean by that is we want to invest just as much in upskilling and preparing our state civil service for how they can responsibly and productively integrate AI into their respective workflows, just as much as we want to use AI responsibly and productively to improve service delivery for Marylanders. You've heard several examples from my colleagues about how we are doing that, how we're partnering with various agencies to bring AI into workflows in a responsible, productive way that builds on the foundation we've laid through the responsible AI policy and the state roadmap. If you go to the next slide, I will share some progress that we've made on a particular effort to upskill the state workforce, and that's the AI community of practice. I spent a year as a product co-lead at the Department of Labor in Maryland prior to joining AI enablement. And I remember when Nishant launched the AI community of practice last summer as a shared virtual space where anyone at any level of state government in Maryland could come to learn about AI. We had not launched all of our major efforts at that point. So at that time, it was really a space for pontification and thinking about how AI can be integrated in a practical way at scale. We relaunched the community of practice in June. That was the first thing on my list when I joined the team around Memorial Day. And we took a demos, not memos ethos when we relaunched the community of practice. We wanted it to be a space that really shows what AI can do in Maryland, not tell people. We think a lot of the confusion around AI relates to the rhetoric around it on both an overly positive and overly negative side. So we wanted to have agencies across Maryland show their peers how they are integrating it into their workflows to work smarter and more accurately. So we have been able to grow our attendance at the COP by 300% in 3 months. When we started in June, we had a list of about 200 folks who had joined the prior year. We're now closing in on 700 people who are on our list, and we typically have an attendance rate of between 33 and 50%, which for an optional meeting is quite high. Our average attendance is about 150 to 200 state civil servants per month. So we are actively engaging folks and using the community of practice, not just as a shared space to provide updates on what AI enablement is working on, but more importantly, to show people the art of the possible when it comes to integrating AI into their respective workflows to work more responsibly and productively. If we go to the next slide, we will talk a little bit more about the AI internship program that Maryland hosted in the summer of 25. The Partnership for a Public Service was able to provide the state 17 interns who worked on AI projects at a range of agencies over the summer. We were able to redirect those interns from federal internships, which did not materialize. We brought them into Maryland to help work hand in hand with respective agencies, and they had an incredible impact in their short time with us. You saw earlier that Ray shared what MDOT is doing related to using Notebook LM as a tool to scale accessibility standards. An intern had a very strong role in that. Another example I love is that we had one intern who is an English major create a no-code chatbot meant to triage public comments at her agency. It was so successful that her agency is now talking about procuring a sandbox environment where they can deploy that chatbot for wider use across the agency. So those are two of 17 successful use cases that we had with our interns, and we do plan on growing that program moving forward because our interns are just as strong teachers as they are people to be taught by us. And if you go to the next slide, we also were able to secure funding from the Hoffman Foundation to have 2 fellows through the Federation of American Scientists join us at the state fairly soon. Our team in particular won funding to hire an AI ML engineering director for a 2-year fellowship. They are going to add technical expertise to our already in-house team of experts, and they will also work very closely with the Department of Labor in Maryland to help prepare the state's workforce against any disruptions that AI might bring. We are also partnering with Labor right now to host short-term AI fellows that can advise us on a statewide AI literacy and training program. One of the big items on my agenda in this final quarter of the year is to come up with a strategy to train the state workforce at scale beyond the community of practice. And we are actively talking with Labor as well as FAS to come up with a plan to get short-term fellows in the door as soon as possible so they can start advising us on best practices for that effort. If we go to the next slide, the last thing I'll talk about is our office hours. AI enablement launched office hours every Monday starting in June. We have since held 50 office hours with various state agencies and peers from those agencies who they can come and book any time with us to ask any questions related to AI implementation, procurement, what they can and cannot do with AI. So we are available every week as that ongoing resource. Anyone can book time with us, and I'm happy to provide that link later if helpful. We also provide free trainings that are given via Innovate Us asynchronously via Workday. So these courses are free to complete, and state staff can complete them on their own time if they want to upskill on their own time. We have also offered bespoke trainings for agencies like Commerce, Maryland Public Television, and other agencies upon their request. So when they want to train their staff on a particular AI use case, they will come to us and we will provide bespoke AI training for their particular cases. And as mentioned before, we are actively partnering with Labor as well as DBM on a statewide training strategy, which I hope to have updates for you on within the next few months. And with that, I will turn it over to Nishant.
Appreciate it. So this last pillar is really based on an ask from SB 818, a set of studies in a dozen different domains. These are healthcare, public safety, other domains. And the goal noted in the roadmap that we published earlier this year is to share the study outputs in December. And those outputs will depend on the findings, but they could be reports, prioritized recommendations, pilot initiatives, or work streams. Next slide, Sarah. Now, each one of these deep dives is led by the agency or entity with the most relevancy to it. So, for example, Commerce is leading the AI and Economic Development deep dive. The State Board of Elections leads AI in elections. DGS leads AI in procurement, and so on and so forth. So while the AI enablement team isn't the sort of the best place to give an update on each one of those, particularly as they're still ongoing, we did think it would be really helpful to briefly discuss one as an example. So, labor has been leading on a report on AI in the workforce, both the state workforce writ large and the state government workforce. And that includes a literature review, data analysis, interviews with academics and think tanks and frontier labs and businesses, civil society, labor, and others. And that report will include an analysis on the AI readiness of our workforce, on opportunities and skills analysis, and a set of recommendations and actions to take. And so the idea there is to use that type of analysis to essentially spur action and not just be another report. So for example, our state government AI literacy efforts, which Lauren alluded to prior, they'll work backwards from the recommendations that come from this report. Next slide. So I hope that gives a really good high-level sense of how the AI enablement team with partners across DoIT and the state are pushing forward adoption. We don't yet have a formal strategy for 2026. We're still focused on executing our ask for 2025. But I did want to end on what I think we're likely to see in 2026 and beyond. I think we'll see the state move up our maturity curve. So from pure foundation building in 2024 to momentum building in 2025, to focusing really on enterprise adoption and use in 2026 and beyond. And I like to characterize that as us moving from 0 to 1. I think we're just reaching the 1 stage now and really entering the 1 to 10 phase. I think we'll see more clarity on the pathways that agencies have to go from idea to experimentation to adoption. And that includes centrally managed AI tooling and infrastructure, the types of users and use cases they're best suited for, as well as external partners that can help with those efforts. I think we'll see an expansion of our existing AI literacy efforts to be much more robust offerings that power different types of learners' journeys across different role types. And we'll start seeing expertise in AI leadership move beyond a few pockets across the state to being more deeply embedded across agencies, really as a result of those literacy initiatives, incoming new hires, and an emerging understanding that this is really a crucial area to develop capabilities in, not just to do it, but across agencies. And as that happens, I think we'll see the AI enablement team really evolving to give guidance on the frontier and incubate approaches to new risks and challenges. So with that, I'm not sure how much time we have left, but would love to open it up to Q&A.
Thank you very much, Nishant. You always do such a great job pulling everything together for us. Just in terms of timeline, and maybe we could stop sharing the screen for a second so I can see people's hands when they go up. We'd like to extend this part. We're running a bit over, but we'd like to go to 11:15 to allow our members to ask some questions. What that means for the next panel of state agencies is we're going to ask you to be as speedy as possible, like trying to keep your presentation to 7 or 8 minutes so that we can get through everything in time. And so with that logistical announcement, I'm going to call on Delegate Ken Kerr for the first question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary, thank you and your team for this update. My question has something to do with but Solomon mentioned transcription, AI transcription in his presentation. I was recently at an NCSL seminar about healthcare where they talked about the problem that they've been encountering in a healthcare setting with AI transcription of medical records is that there's not an ability to audit in some cases, that the original recordings that are uploaded to the vendor's server become the property of the vendor, and the healthcare provider can't get access to them in order to go back and run an audit to see about the accuracy of the transcription. Have you encountered any of that, or is that part of your advice to agencies that are seeking to use transcription through AI?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, Delegate Kerr. So in our governance or our AI card, we actually provided two types of guidance against that. So I want to answer your first question directly. The Gemini tool, when it does transcriptions, those transcripts are available to us in our enterprise environment. So if we were transcribing, let's say this call, for example, we could see the entire transcript at the end of it if we had to edit it, review it, and so forth. And in our guidance to agencies, we do, recommend that they take a look at that because, people can have different accents and so forth. So being able to kind of speak and review those is accessible to everybody. So just answering that kind of explicit question. The second thing is that in the actual guidance to agencies, we do also tell them around like different things they should and shouldn't do in those recordings, especially when it comes to recording like private information and so forth. But we haven't really, I guess I would say, internally ran into a challenge of being able to access our own transcripts from an AI transcription software like Gemini. So I hope that answers that.
The problem was being able to access the original recordings in order to compare them to the transcript.
Yes. So if when someone does a recording on Gemini, they are recording the audio, they can compare both the audio and the text transcript from the recording. So those both come out of the Gemini recording.
Okay, thank you, Solomon.
Any other questions? If not, I have a couple. I'm just really like thrilled with how much progress has been made. I can't remember who was presenting the bit about the intake process, but my question was, of the 100+ use cases that we've identified, how many are actually moving forward? And what can the state do to help them move forward faster?
Yes. So thanks for the question, Senator Hester. So I'll answer your first question, which is of the 100 use cases, how many are moving forward? So I want to be clear, actually, those 100 use cases are the ones that are moving forward. So I didn't include ones, we have ones that literally a few hours after this call, we have a weekly review of AI use cases, and those are always being reviewed. The 100 cases that are available are ones that we know agencies are actively working on to move across the finish line, and then we're actively as a team helping them do that. So that's kind of addressing your first question. So I hope that answers that.
And it answers this. Yeah, it does. I guess the other part was like, are you able to move forward all of the use cases that you feel have a high return on investment? And actually, like, are you like, how is it happening? Like, are these use cases moving ahead for free? Are we funding them? Like, I'm just trying to, because I know that we can save money by doing things more efficiently. And I'm trying to figure out what our investment is and what the return on the investment is.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer part of that, and I'll turn over to Nishan, who can talk to us more broadly across all these use cases. So for our use cases that are moving forward, some of them are using, let's say, Gemini. That's the enterprise solution the state already has. Some have procured some solutions at the agency level. So the example I like to give is there's an agency who's using AI for like deep plotting to help like review and like translate that into images using AI. So it's a really cool use case of an AI technology. And so a lot of those cases have been able to move forward either because we have a solution in place or it's an agency going to procure something. And so we're really helping them review and evaluate, is this the appropriate AI use case? Do they have all the, responsible AI use case policies in place to use that? Do they have the data and privacy necessary to set that up? But I will turn it over to Nishant to talk a little bit more around kind of the financial aspects and material support that might be needed for some future projects.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Solomon. So I think I referred to previously, Senator Hester, this concept of like finding different pathways to move from idea to experiment to scale. And each of those requires sort of different types of engagements. What we want agencies to understand is what is an AI-shaped problem? Not just the fact that you want a chatbot for your site, but what is the problem you're trying to solve? And then is AI the right thing to do that? Often it's not. You could just have good website content and that sort of solves the problem. But for ones where AI is really helpful, ideally we have like a workshop or a playbook or a productivity guide or some set of material that answers questions to say, okay, what is the art of the possible in that program area that you have? And so we've built this productivity guide that helps some agencies answer that set of questions. We want to partner with external folks. So this had a conversation with the UMD, and then there's a number of other conversations with other partners as well, where they are external experts in different spaces that can help power some of those exploratory sort of discovery conversations. What we often find is that our existing tools, so Gemini is not just the set of like the chatbot within Google Workspace. There's also Notebook LM, there's Google AI Studio, there's all of these things you can do with that. And we've often found that just sort of spending some time with the agency to like double click into their problem and say, hey, we can actually leverage these tools to run a prototype for what you're trying to see and see if AI is the right solution there. That I would say like a good percentage of the use cases, we've been successful in just applying existing tools to those given problem statements. But the sort of third approach here is that, once you sort of move from that idea to the proof of concept, then you need to scale a solution into production. And that's a very different thing. That is more expensive, that requires the right type of data, and a handful of agencies have done that type of work effectively, and often a formal procurement is the right, approach there. And the key there is to have the right legal language, the right sort of governance requirements to help empower that agency to go from an understanding of, okay, here's the problem we want to get, but also to what are the evaluations? How are we actually looking at this set of solutions so that it's not really snake oil? This is like, in fact, a thing that will solve this for us. So there's that work that's happening sort of around procurement. And then the last element of this is expanding the tech stack that powers from that idea to proof of concept to scaling stage. And that's work that we're running right now, which is essentially to say that, okay, let's assume that we have different persona types leveraging AI in the state. You have power users who are like developing AI, you have the general productivity users, you have different role types. And for each one of those, what is the right tech stack? Like what is the tool you should use when you're just testing, and what is the tool that you should use in a sandbox to sort of see the art of the possible, and then how do you actually scale that? And that might be, a Google environment, it might be Microsoft, it might be AWS, it might be sort of an open source approach, but the work that we're doing right now will bring much more clarity to exactly what that pathway looks like and how DoIT should be centrally managing or not centrally managing that set of infrastructure.
Okay, I think that sounds really like resourceful. I guess from the kind of procurement / MITDP portion of the whole thing, I'm wondering if we need a new vehicle, like for these AI-enabled projects that you want to move from pilot to scale. Do they wait for a year to become an MITDP, or is there a way that you could use like the expedited fund, like within that to move forward, or agencies using their existing money? And the reason I'm asking is because I'd like to be able to help enable this process going forward if indeed you need something different from the state legislature.
I am not as familiar with the expedited fund, so I don't think there's a whole lot I can say to that. I don't know if Secretary Savage knows more about that. But
yeah, I can speak to that. Sorry, I was trying to find the mute. So we confirmed with DLS that the 2025 BRFA repealed the 20% requirement for expedited projects. So while funding for the expedited projects will be budgeted under ITIF, the 20% requirement for expedited projects is no longer applicable. So that is not a resource that's available to us.
So wait, it's not mandated anymore. That doesn't mean you guys couldn't ask for it if that was indeed a tool that we needed. So I guess my question more broadly is, and we can take it offline, do we have the tools we need in terms of finance and procurement to enable the legitimate projects that need to move forward to go on? Like I noticed that the PIA, that one with MDE, is done through the Rockefeller grant. So obviously there's a need there that we found philanthropic dollars for. But is that like sustainable, I guess?
Yeah, I think there's two two things I want to call out. And one, as you noted, some projects need an incubation stage, and we have been successful so far for proofs of concept in finding philanthropic dollars or partnerships with universities and others to sort of initially pilot something. I don't think we need something separate for it to like turn into an MITP. I mean, I think the goal really should be that AI, advanced technology is the foundation of an MITP. So I don't see them as distinct things. And my hope is actually that, instead of the bespoke systems that the state has been building, for decades, we're using AI to, not just to replace some of the technology that we would implement, either directly. So, it's the licensing permit that licensing and permitting pilot that Ray mentioned, for example, rather than spend X amount of dollars trying to build an end-to-end licensing and permitting system. We're seeing that AI can sort of obviate the need for doing that. So one, I'm sort of hoping that it replaces some of these major, some of the MITDPs, period, or it's a component of it. So, Pat McLaughlin, who's the executive director of Maryland Benefits, and I have talked a lot about the ability to, leverage some of the models for generating software code, for example. So again, this is sort of shrink the footprint of an MITDP. So I see the technology as embedded in the MITDPs. So I don't think we need to add anything with regard to that. I think they're to the earlier point of could we always rely on philanthropy and universities for some of the upfront seed funding to pilot things? The state is obviously cash poor, and so it feels like it would be challenging to ask, for additional funding to support that. But something that would, like an innovation fund, for example, something like that could be interesting to seed some of those upfront ideas.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And for those of you who are watching, I mean, the point of the expedited fund, which exists but doesn't have any money in it currently, was to enable us to move forward with smaller projects in between the budget cycle. So, I mean, I would hate for our agencies to have to wait, a full year to get approved from MITDP, especially if it's not like that much money. I think we just need a vehicle, by which you guys can continue to, modernize the way that the state works. So we are about at time. I just wanted to flag one thing, which maybe we can take offline. I appreciated, Nishant, you're adding the bit about the AI enablement roadmap, and I heard you mention that we'd hopefully be getting an update in December. I don't think there's anything legislatively about a formal report, but definitely we would appreciate knowing where we're going. In just an update from each team lead would be fabulous if we can get that before the session starts.
Happy to do that.
Thank you so much. Okay, not seeing any other questions. Let's move on to our next section. We really appreciate the other folks who are here. So I'll just, I think we are going to be joined. I see people coming and going. But the next bit is just a deeper dive on some of our specific applications from across our state agencies, the ones who are really leading the way. We've asked from the Department of Budget Management, we have Neil Desai, the Chief Human Resource Officer, and Derek Rost, the Chief Information Officer, will be giving us an update. Then we have the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange, Venkat Kashaman, the Chief Information Officer. And finally, from the Department of Service and Civic Innovation, we have Isaac Frumkin, the Chief Information Officer again. So once again, we really appreciate you all being as speedy as you can to help us catch up a little bit on time, but really appreciate you being here and look forward to what you have to say. And so with that, I'll turn it over to whoever is leading from DBM.
Great. I'll go ahead and kick things off then. Dana, appreciate you sharing the slides. Hi, Neil Desai, Chief HR Officer, as you mentioned, really appreciate the opportunity to present. very much looking forward to continuing to engage on this and many other topics as we go along. In light of your the logistical constraints, I'll move sort of quickly through this. Dana, if we can sort of move on to the next slide. I would say DBM is really at the beginning of our AI adoption journey. We are beginning to roll out a few use cases and become more familiar with those systems, while also evaluating potential applications, understanding how they would work, how they would add value, how we can make them effective for the the use cases that we've got. In these early stages, we are identifying a few sort of potential focus areas, things that we are sort of looking for as we look for places to roll this out and to try initial use cases. Things that have significant manual review of data, things that are where we can optimize very time intensive or highly manual processes. Obviously, we are very focused on the sensitivities, particularly in my shop, around AI and HR, and understanding that we, for anything that we would be doing that, took a larger, more decision-making role, would be obviously have to be very rigorously tested, have to understand the potential bias and implications that it would have. Our focus at the moment is really on enhancing human judgment, not on replacing it. We're also looking very actively at AI tools that vendors are incorporating into various tools that we have already in place, and seeing how we can leverage or use those, how they can be effective for us, how they can help save us time, and whether they're sort of worth the investment that they have. Again, in interest of moving quickly, let's jump to the next slide if we could, and would love to talk about a few of the use cases that we've rolled out to date or are looking to roll out in the near future. So starting on the left here, we have an internal chatbot in our employee benefits division. This was deployed last week after completing accuracy testing on it. This is really a tool designed for the employee benefits specialists themselves. It's not sort of public facing, it is internal facing. And the benefits guides, as you may know, are sort of very large, dense documents with a ton of very detailed information covering lots of different scenarios. They are sort of slow and hard to work through as employee benefit specialists are responding to questions from the public and from employees. We have deployed this chatbot to allow them to sort of type in quickly, get to the question that is being asked, pull up using this AI chatbot the tools and the places that we would have in the benefits guide that are relevant for the question that have been going, or that are adjacent to it and so may be relevant. This really helps accelerate and improve the quality of the call that they're having, and so we can process more more questions, more incoming faster. We can give better service for those that are there. We've also deployed it in a number of places to accelerate existing or sort of manual processes. So this first bullet in the middle here, we've used Gemini to develop no-code scripts to process different benefit reports. Now, so in the benefits world, there's often, you're pulling data from multiple places, and these are sort of big, dense reports, and the data has to be cleaned, and it has to be matched across different data sets. And again, that merge has got to be cleaned. These are often very sort of line by line manual things in order to check accuracy and ensure that we're doing it right. By developing these scripts, we're able to do this much, much more quickly. We're able to accelerate and automate a lot of that matching and that checking. So those have really accelerated the development of those processes. We've also added AI to synthesize free text inputs in a few places, particularly around our refund log, where we have a lot of free text information that has to be incorporated and structured. That historically has been a very, again, a member of my team will go through and read them and summarize and sort of pull that information together in a structured way. We can now do that with AI, with the member of my team just sort of checking and validating, as opposed to having to do it from scratch. We're also looking in the classification space. Our classification process is a sort of very involved manual process where we will review lots of information about a particular job, a lot of the job duties that are being proposed, where that would fit, comparable information, historical trends, and sort of what we've done in the past for these positions, how it fits into the larger structure of the classification system that we have. We are actively exploring AI tools that would allow us to optimize in a bunch of different ways, sort of both in simplifying the rewriting of class specs, particularly aligned to the educational level that is required by that particular job. So making sure that we're not writing the spec at a higher level than is required for the job that we would be requiring. There are I think there are roughly 3,500 job classifications in Maryland, and so being able to do this more rapidly, more effectively, is a real time saver for us. In addition, by building linkages to identifying, hey, what are the other skills and other jobs that we have both horizontally and vertically, we can do a better job of designing career pathways, finding places where there may be more classifications than we actually need. We can consolidate those down, and then putting all of that together into a much more rapid process to update those classifications and improve them. So a thing that we are still exploring, but are very excited about moving forward with. We also have vendors deploying AI. In some cases, those are things that are really helpful. We have a new employee relations database that sort of centralizes all of the employee relations issues and settlement conferences and cases that come up. Right now, that is a very manual process. It's been, things will get emailed into us. We will have to process it individually, then open a case in a very antiquated system, summarize all of that information into a set of documents that we can then make decisions on, and then close that out, elevate it up if that's needed. The new employee relations database that we are deploying over the next couple of months will incorporate AI into this, where they can just take the raw inputs and open a new case, deploy the summary information, and have the sort of information available so that my team can just take a look at it, immediately have the relevant information, and begin to process the sort of substantive, hard, judgment-based work that they do in settlement conferences and managing employee relations issues. In some places, not here on the slide, but in some places, the AI tools that we've seen deployed haven't been that much of a value add, or they're still in their infancy, and so we're doing that. There's lots of places that again, with interest of time, I won't go through each of those, but for each of these places, we are kind of taking a look and understanding if it's a tool that we can actually use and would like to invest in. We're also investing in training. So kind of matching the classification work that we are thinking about, we've started to invest in fundamental training for our classification team. So 65% of the team has been trained on those fundamentals learning modules. That'll continue. In addition, Nishant already mentioned that we are partnering with the Department of Labor to develop recommendations for state workforce AI upskilling, and so expect those to come out over the next few months there. The next slide is just some sort of potential use cases for the longer term. I think there's a lot of places that this could be really exciting. Accelerating and improved hiring. Minimum qualifications checks take a significant amount of staff time to do currently, and having a first pass of that done by AI could be a very interesting use case. Obviously, also, there's a lot of work going on in the private sector around automated matching of skills to opportunities. That's also a thing we're looking at. For all of these, as we get into sort of core hiring, recruiting processes, all of that, we're going to have to be very careful about the potential for implicating bias. Even some of the largest private sector companies, as they have rolled this out, it turns out that a lot of the training data and a lot of the way that decisions have been made previously are having sort of implicit bias. We want to make sure that obviously that doesn't come into the state's hiring process in any way, shape, or form. Also, opportunities in streamlining citizen services with AI chatbots, obviously starting in on that with the benefits guide, the internal facing benefits guide support for employee benefits, and then enhanced information discovery around DBM's website. Once we get into the website, there's obviously lots of other ways in which we can deploy that internally and externally. I will pause there and don't know if we'll do questions now or pass on to the next presenter.
I see a question from Senator Cheryl Kagan.
Thank you, Senator Hester, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. Neil, that last slide was especially meaningful to me as I continue to work with Do It and others on on creating the opportunity for Maryland to be the very first state in the country to have a statewide 311 system. Just wanted to talk about just two quick things. One is I'm going to caution if this goes any more broadly or if that slide is reused. I just want to suggest that the word citizen is a charged word right now, and we don't only serve citizens, we also serve tourists, visitors, businesses, nonprofits, and all that. So I just want to suggest that that word might be tweaked in the future or frankly eliminated. And then second, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the first pass of hiring, because there are some people who question whether it's a person with disabilities, whether it's cultural differences or something, that AI is still challenging and problematic. There was some conversation about doing a first pass on prospective 911 specialists, and that it really couldn't discern who would be effective in that role. Would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you again, Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
I really appreciate the questions. I think they're great. Absolutely, very good catch on the wording there. We will absolutely update. Appreciate the flag on that. For bringing AI into the selection process, I think is something that we want to be very sort of deliberate about if we want to go down that path. I think there's still a lot of benefit and value in having humans be doing the review in that place in particular. There have been both, historically in the early days and even quite recently, a number of notable examples in the private sector where, yeah, there were real problems associated with this, even in very large. There's several examples, even in large sort of tech savvy, very, internet AI IT forward industries where there were real difficulties with this. As I sort of look at the landscape of hiring, I think there are a bunch of places that we could look at to start AI adoption that would be a little bit more sort of potentially amenable or less risky to this. I think doing things that are first passes at some of I was mentioning that the qualifications, the minimum qualifications. Right now, you get a big set of application documents, resumes, supporting documentation, et cetera, that highlight that we are sort of now manually matching that against the minimum qualifications of that job to make sure that they meet those thresholds. In many cases, they do, and it's a very straightforward thing to say, you need 4 years, you've got these particular things, you find the spot on their resume that says they got 4 years, great. Being able to do that as a first pass, quick hit, say, hey, look, this is, this person in this part of their resume has it, would be a real accelerator to a human-based review of those qualifications, and could be there's still a human in the loop. It's still the human that is ultimately making the decision.
Sure.
On that I think would be kind of earlier places we'd want to look.
Yes, I just think we ought to. So thank you for your thoughtful answer, and I think it's yellow light and cautionary. So thank you for that. And Senator Hester, I see that Laura Dunwoody is in the room, and so I'm really delighted that you were able to recruit her to join us. So I'm looking forward to, as always, learning from her. Thank you. I'll go back on mute.
Thank you very much, Senator Kagan. I appreciate your leadership in this area of 911, 311, 211, all of them. I see that Delegate Hill has her hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Desai, for the presentation. And I apologize, I had to step out for some of the earlier presentations. So if I ask a question that is redundant, please say, that was addressed earlier. And when I review the part of the meeting that I missed, I'll do that so you don't have to answer that. So real quick question based on your answer to Senator Kagan's last question. When you talk about wanting to ensure that there's a human making a decision at the end, particularly with human resources, and et cetera. In some cases, what that means is the human follows, they see what the algorithm or the AI recommended, and they say, yeah, that's consistent with our policy, and then they, rubber stamp it. In other cases, they actually do a review of all the independent information that was fed into the algorithm, and therefore make a independent decision, which allows for catching errors in the AI processing. So when you talk about a human making decision, which process are you thinking of? Or is there a third way that you mean that?
It's a great question, and I think a good insight into how these things actually get rolled out and used. And I think definitely the interest is, I think, particularly in HR, which I think is a particularly sensitive area and has honestly, has a somewhat checkered history with this. I think we would definitely want to ensure that, we were having humans review, understand, be able to fully stand by the decision that is being made, sort of soup to nuts. When I just, as a very sort of blunt heuristic, I think about this as AI to use in automating or sort of accelerating a task completion versus AI in the use of in using to make decisions in various ways. And I think we'll definitely want to start with, how can we automate or accelerate tasks that are being done. And as we sort of very clearly understand as we move into anything that sort of smacks more of decision making, exactly to your point, I mean, we really have to be extremely confident, soup to nuts, that we understand and can stand by any decision that's made.
Okay. May I ask another question, Madam Chair? Just one?
Yes, as long as the question and the answer are both quick.
Right. So, is there any information about that you can share with us? Either, send us something about how do you vet for bias in your systems as you're implementing these systems, particularly ones that we're getting through outside vendors? And how do you correct for errors in the information? So in the case you talk about where staff are using the system to give answers, how are we catching errors and then feeding that back into the system so that they improve?
Yeah, if it's okay with you, I'd say that's a potentially a longer and more detailed answer to sort of think carefully about I can give you more detail on the accuracy testing that we did for our sort of the chatbot that we're using at employee benefits. But in the interest of time, if it's okay with you, I can follow up offline or backward.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate both the question and the answer to take it offline. I think in general, if members have questions, just send them to the Joint Committee staff and we'll follow up with everybody. In fact, Mr. Desai, I mean, I actually wanted to ask you what you needed in order to allow you to move forward with those future ideas. So we'll include that in the list of questions going forward. So thank you so much for your remarks. Really appreciate the good work of DBM. We'll now move on to the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange. I think we're joined by Venkat Koshanman, the CIO for the Health Benefit Exchange. I understand you're doing great work and look forward to hearing from you. Over to you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Delius. I hope you can see the screen and you can hear me also. I'll try to rush ethics in 5-10 minutes in my maximum if possible. I know it's not a great idea where the country is standing right now, but I will try my best. But thank you so much. I know this panel understands what is ethical intelligence, why it's important, so I won't dwell on it. But I just want us to consider just to set the levels at the ground here, AI logic, history shows, I know some of these studies are dated, but history shows 80% of Black mortgage application can be denied just like that because of AI logic that had a bias in us from our biases. And how do we control? I think that kind of question Delegate Hale was asking about in a different way. And it can even go beyond that. Predicting a Black defendant in a court of justice, what are they prone to do even more down the line? I mean, when you think of these things, and where I work in healthcare setting, you can imagine the type of kind of damage that AI can cause to the public in terms of not having capacity in the logic, and can impact the privacy and security, impact the equitable delivery of services. and erode the public trust. And we all know that these systems can perpetuate biases, discriminate, violate privacy, and whatnot. So why do we even use it in the first place when this is built on a vicious cycle? But for the health exchanges, there is a compelling need that exists for integrating ethical standards when adopting AI. So I'll focus my today's very quick presentation on ethics and how we integrate into our framework and what are the couple of use cases. I'll be very brief. So some of these things we know it, why government is different, government AI is different. So I won't dwell on it. But let's get into some ideas here. If, as an implementer, if we integrate your core organizational framework with core ethical principles like transparency, justice and fairness, non-malfeasance, security, privacy, accountability, responsibility, etc. If you can get a framework, and if your regulations are around that, thankfully, Maryland is doing, seen recently, California has done it. Unlike European Union has a EU Act for AI, unfortunately, we don't have for US. But we have pockets of strengths. How can we integrate these? And we do it has done phenomenal work in the last 2 years. So how we can integrate these into our actual implementation practices. There are some examples here. I would be very happy to explain in detail. Some of these based on my research as well as others' research. I'll be very happy to see how we can show how we can translate when implementing systems in technology in Maryland. So I'll be very happy to do so down the line. But if taking a simple example of data governance, for instance, if you have a robust data governance and you do your audit and compliance, implement best practices, have your consent protocols, and security, take care of security, technology, and training that was talked a lot today. You can see how this can impact certain ethical principle and how it can alleviate certain concerns and how our outcome could be in the way that we want to be unethical and safeguarding the privacy, etc. This is just a simple example. When we think of AI as a whole, research shows these are just 8 of these categories, but there can be more. You can combine them into 4 different areas: data, technology, policy, and governance, and your organizational factors. And if you target each of these, for instance, for example, if you target as noted here, these are some of the actionable items that the agencies can take and implement directly. I'll just focus on number 3 under organization, promote diversity and inclusion in AI development. How does it even impact? I know diversity is not a popular word right now, but if we have that in your AI development, AI implementation, research shows you can significantly improve eliminating these biases, for example. This is just one example. There are many such examples across these domains. So coming to Maryland Health Connections use cases, so what we have done over the years, we had implemented a chatbot, AI-powered chatbot a couple of years back. We're a little ahead of the curve there. And in 2024, we have handled more than 600,000 consumer queries directly. And this year, I understand from my team this morning, we have handled 1.3 million consumer queries in 2025 alone. Even before the open enrollment, which is a very critical period for us between November and January this year, next year, January. So if I look at it, that's 1.5 million consumer queries directly handled by this bot, which directly saved a significant amount of cost for the state. Even if I am saying 20% of these, 10 to 20%, let's say 10 to 20% of these chats avoided the calls to call center, that's more than $2 million cost saving. And that also means the call center staff and workers can focus on more complex cases and help the consumers in getting Medicaid or qualified health plan coverage. So it's a very significant benefit here. And we have implemented an AI agent supported call center when consumers call the call center for technical help, like resetting a password, for example. We have seen more than 35% of our consumers' calls are automatically handled. Again, this is a very significant cost-saving initiative, but also it extends the consumer support to 24 hours a day, as opposed to 6 hours or 8 hours call center timeline. So it's a very significant benefit. And also it brings a lot of equity in responding to consumers' queries. It's kind of technology neutral for the consumer. It's a lot easier for consumers to talk to these agents. So we are expanding this capability this year and end of this year to provide consumers more case status and other information directly through AI integrations. And I want to highlight one other significant initiative we had a couple of years back, and we are expanding and adding more automated technologies here. We are verifying almost 125,000 plus consumer documents, consumers asking for Medicaid coverage. This is you may wonder 125,000 may be a small number, but if you connect to the number of families, number of consumers, number of people in Marylanders who get benefited, it's almost 600,000 Marylanders get benefited because of this one functionality. What it means is when consumers submit a document for Medicaid coverage, we are able to do real-time determination right there, as opposed to sending these documents to workers' queue and workers looking into it, maybe taking a few days of time before confirming a determination for Medicaid coverage. These are some examples that directly translate not only saving costs for the state, but also providing real benefit to consumers who are in need. And we are expanding beyond this, obviously, and there are some ideas we have planned for later part of this year as well as next year. I'll be very happy to share them with this panel sometime in the future if interested. And in terms of AI policy pillars, we rely on these in terms of having an ethical commitment and aligning our AI with our state regulation, federal regulation, if any, and also any other best practices that we seek, and having a robust governance framework in terms of our technology development and implementation. And also we continuously monitor and improve over time. So bringing the pillars to practice, there are many examples here how these can be built into our technology implementation ideas. So we have done that as well. And typically we ask each of the teams that's working to implement these technologies or using these technologies, how can they better do within their own function? So we have these questions that we ask ourselves and improve as we go along. There are many other ideas that I would be very happy to share down the line. In the interest of time, I'm just rushing through this right now. But in a nutshell, we talked about scalability and adaptability here. There are a lot of ideas here that we try to distill into our AI policies that are generally in line with Do-It policies. And also we have our AI governance mechanism in place that we utilize to implement any technologies with the focus of ethics tightly integrated into our processes. And with that, I will pause here for any questions, and thanks for the opportunity here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'm not seeing any questions immediately. I did want to just ask kind of my previous question for you to follow up offline. I mean, I'd be curious in your use cases, kind of how much money we've actually been able to save, like what was the initial investment, how much do we save? And then looking forward, is there anything that we need to do to improve the ability for you to continue to use AI going forward? But thank you very much for your strong leadership in this topic. Very much appreciated. Great presentation. Last but certainly not least, we're going to move over to the Department of Service and Civic Innovation. We have the Chief Information Officer, Isaac Frumkin, with us. Isaac, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Chair Hester, Chair Kaiser, and members of the committee. I am going to share some slides today. Can you let me know if you are able to see the slides?
I could, but now it's gone blank. Yes, now I can see it again. You're good.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for having us here today. For those that I have not met, my name is Isaac Frumkin. I serve as the Chief Information Officer for the Maryland Department of Service and Civic Innovation. Our agency, DSCI, was created in 2023 with the passage of SB 551, otherwise known as the SERV Act, which some members of this very committee helped to sponsor. So thank you all for your support. Our agency is tasked with promoting service and volunteerism in the state of Maryland, including administering and establishing the Maryland Core Service Year Option Program, as well as legacy service programs in Maryland. The use cases that I'll be walking through today are leveraged by the Maryland Core Service Year Option Program. So some brief context on that program. Again, it was established in 2023. We recently launched the third class of the program. So we have 2 alumni classes. This is a 9-month service and workforce development program. We have members from all 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland, placed at over 200 organizations across the state. And these members get professional development experience over their service term, financial literacy training, alumni network, and building social capital over the course of the program. They also are able to earn a completion award upon their completion of their 9-month service term. So in the interest of time, I'm going to start today with walking through use cases that our agency is already leveraging to support the Maryland Core Service Year Option Program. The first use case is a virtual introductory conversation. This use case is for folks who are applying to the Maryland Core Service Year Option Program to be members. The program itself has 2 pathways, one for 18 to 24-year-olds, and then one for adults of all ages over the age of 18. And this use case is a agentic experience where applicants have the opportunity to interact with AI through a chat feature or by actually talking to the AI. And the conversation is structured as reaffirming benefits and expectations of the program, as well as collecting skills and interests to inform the matching process. There is key information that is collected during this process, which helps to make for a more efficient matching process. And so in terms of scalability, this is a key functionality that allows our human team that supports the matching process to focus on higher value interactions rather than the standard collection of certain data points. So this is one use case that our agency is leveraging with regards to AI. A second use case is matching assistance. So after members complete that initial experience, they move into the matching process. This is the process by which our team works with the applicants to the program, as well as the organizations that are interested in hosting members as part of the program, and help facilitate matches based on members' skills and interests, based on meaningful growth opportunities across the state, and based on commute, because members are able to get to locations that are presumably close to where they live. So it's taking into account a lot of those considerations. We were able to develop another AI experience that helps members to navigate this process. To put it into practice, what happens when members engage with this experience is they might come to our application and matching portal and say, hey, which jobs do you think are best for me? I would be really interested in working in education, or I love working with my hands and working outside. And so the models that power this experience help to pull information from the job descriptions that organizations have submitted and help to match that data with the members' self-reported skills and interests to help them navigate their job search. We found this to be especially meaningful with our younger applicants. A majority of the applicants that apply to the service year option pathway, which is the pathway I mentioned that's for 18 to 24-year-olds, it's their first ever time searching for a full-time job. And if everyone can remember their first time searching for a full-time job, it can be an overwhelming experience. And so the ability for them to have 24/7 access to an experience that can give them guidance on the process, that can provide interview support, is something that we found helpful for our applicants. And I also want to point out, we do have a human team that also supports this process. And so The idea with this experience is that, again, from an accessibility standpoint, from a scalability standpoint, it can help to provide a lot of initial guidance. But our team of human matching captains are also regularly in touch with applicants and organizations as they go through this process. One other point that I'd like to mention here that's relevant to both this use case and the first use case is that based on the responsible AI use policy that Department of Information Technology has put out, is both these use cases have been classified as limited risk. The data is all contained in a closed system. It follows a lot of industry-leading security standards, and no information beyond the skills and interest data that's a need to make recommendations is actually used to power the model to make recommendations. So in a lot of ways, these use cases are less biased than the bias that might be introduced by a human interacting with someone that can see someone's demographic profile, that can see their age profile, that can see those characteristics. The third use case that our agency has been able to leverage is offer letter verification. So if you've been following me through the applicant experience, they have their virtual introductory conversation, they engage in the matching process and get assistance with the matching process, and then hopefully they receive an offer letter from the organization that they've interviewed with and had a successful interview thanks to use case 2, hopefully. And so the organizations present them with an offer letter. These offer letters are required to have certain criteria that our agency has laid out, including making sure that the offer letters have the right start date, the right end date, that the employees are making at least minimum wage, that they're working a certain number of hours per week, that they're being offered health benefits, that they have a supervisor and mentor noted in the offer letter. And what we've done in past classes is we've had humans manually reviewing the offer letters to make sure they meet this criteria. As the size of the program grows, as the number of applicants and host organization grows, the time spent on manually reviewing these offer letters is another area where we found that introducing AI can help to allow our human team to spend more time on higher value touch points. There's also a level of increased accuracy by ensuring that there's a standardized set of criteria that's applied to all offer letters. And in terms of protecting our members, it helps to save our staff time, but it's also a measure to protect members, to ensure, like I mentioned, that they have a mentor and supervisor at their site, to ensure that they're being offered health benefits. And so that's where this use case has come into play. And then the last use case that I want to mention is functionality that members of the Maryland Core Service Year Option Program have access to when they are actually in the program itself. So within their learning portal, they have access to an experience that they can interact with to get explanations. And for instance, if they need help drafting a professional email, or they've been tasked with creating a work plan for a project and they're looking for advice on how to get started. And so this opportunity has helped our members to improve their productivity. Again, as I mentioned earlier, for a lot of our members, it's their first ever full-time job experience. And so this is a tool that they have to improve their productivity. Our agency is very data-driven, and one of the ways we've been able to realize success here is we administer a pre-service survey, we administer an end-of-service survey, and among the questions we ask are confidence and knowledge of how to leverage AI tools in the workplace. And we saw a really meaningful increase in the most recent class that graduated from the beginning of the term to the end of the term in terms of their self-reported confidence. So those are the 4 use cases that our agency is currently leveraging with the Maryland Core Service Year Option Program. All these use cases are structured to align with DO-IT's responsible AI use policy. we've been able to meet with the AI enablement team that was presenting earlier, to attend their office hours and join the community of practice. So we've really benefited from DoIT's expertise and leadership here. In terms of agency responsibilities that are outlined in that AI responsible use policy, I serve as our AI lead, and am actively working to upskill myself and our agency with our knowledge of how to leverage AI. We are following the AI intake process and some of the other requirements that apply more to high risk implement use cases we are monitoring. So we'll make sure to be following if in the future we ever do have a higher risk use case. Again, just summarizing the benefits of these use cases, we're able to provide personalized and objective career insights to applicants and members that are part of the Maryland Core Service Year Option Program. And then in terms of scalability and accessibility, these tools help to process high volumes of applicants and are available 24/7 for members to interact with as a first step. And there's always the opportunity and availability for members and applicants to engage with our staff as well. So the support does not end with these use cases. It's merely a tool that our agency is leveraging to provide added value.
Mr. Frumpkin, I think we're about at time. I wanted to thank you so much. I've followed your work, and you're definitely one of the shining stars, of all of our agencies. So thank you for everything that you put in. I'm going to follow up offline with a couple of questions, about your keys to success and what you see going forward and the ROI, but I'll send that by email. Thank you very, very, very much. And if others have questions for the Department of Service and Civic Innovation, please make sure that staff has them as quickly as possible. Okay. With that, we are now going to switch gears for the last portion of our hearing today. We've covered everything that Maryland is doing, and now we're moving on to some other leading states and cities. And first up, we have the city of Denver in Colorado. Denver has been a pioneer in their AI-powered chatbot, Sunny, which engages in 72 languages with a 90% customer satisfaction score. Their Innovation Center earned Denver 311 first place in the city category of Government Experience Awards from the Center for Digital Government. And so with that, I would like to welcome Laura Dunwoody. And Laura, thank you for your patience with us. You are on the air.
Of course, thank you. Now I'm going to embarrass myself because I'm not a normal Zoom user. How do I share my screen here? Can someone tell me real quick?
There should be a little green button on the bottom of your page that says share.
The bright green one. Yes, thank you.
And I'm hoping it's enabled, and I'm now seeing your presentation, although it's not yet in presentation mode.
All right, here we go. Thank you for that.
Great, we see it now.
Okay, excellent. So this is my second opportunity to present to a group of you important individuals in Maryland. I kind of got into your world through a visit from Senator Cheryl Kagan a number of years ago. It's been a while now that we've known each other. I think it was late 2019, early 2020, and just before COVID. So Senator Kagan got one of the last tours of my on-site 311 call center in all its regalia, with 50 people and lots of noise and great things going on. And we have stayed in touch over the years. And I have been a big fan of her vision of having a 311 type of a ecosystem that could serve not only individual cities and counties, but potentially the whole state of Maryland. And we have stayed in touch, and I hope Senator Kagan has avoided a lesson here or there that she had to learn, because I was able to pass them on to her along with our best practices. So with that, I'll give you a little background on 311 in general, and then we'll get into the AI components. So in 2006, 311 replaced the ability to call 3 digits in Denver, replaced the need for residents to navigate over 2,500 different phone numbers that would get you to different areas in the city, different agencies, different desks in different agencies. You really needed to get out your secret decoder ring if you needed to figure out how to get a permit to redo your bathroom or order a new garbage can. So that was a very, we totally stole the playbook from Baltimore. Baltimore was the first, and off we went and created a holistic call center where people who want to do business or ask questions about the city and county of Denver could come. So what we offer and how you access it. So it's a one-stop shop. You can talk to us about anything that goes on in Denver, any services that the city provides, and how to navigate Denver as a whole. Denver is a pretty, I imagine much like Baltimore, Denver is a pretty popular city to visit. So we get really clear really early that it wasn't just the people who live here. Our audience is the people who live, work, and play in Denver. So our 311 short code is available to anyone who is in Denver. We provide a 10-digit number for anyone who might be coming and wants to do a little pre-work, so they can get into us and talk to us even though they're not yet in the city and county of Denver. Callers can reach us through 3 channels. First one we had was calling the live agents. Back in 2006, that was the gold standard for customer service. You be open when I want you to be open, you answer the phone quickly, you are friendly to me, and you give me the answer I want. That was a 10 out of 10 in customer service. Then we got into the 2000s a little bit later, and it became obvious that there were some opportunities to do some quick online service, self-service opportunities for people. So we created the Online Services Hub, which is basically just a portal on our denvergov.org website that allows you to, by typing in your contact information, your name, your address, your email, and then we give you a menu of templates of what you're trying to accomplish. So you want to report a pothole, you want to order a garbage can, those types of things. We allow you to enter those on your own. That creates a ticket, a work ticket that goes directly to street maintenance or solid waste, and they then take it from there and get your services handled for you. In I think it was really around about 2019, we started to think about next iterations using online services. And we didn't start with, we need AI, but we started with, what is the problem that we want to solve? And the problem was, as these digital babies grow and start buying houses, they are less and less aligned with my old definition of customer service, which is if you call, I answer quickly and friendly and give you a good answer. They see even having to call as a fail. And I recently read a customer service industry, not a government industry, paper that said that the average customer will search on a website for 20 minutes to avoid a 3-minute phone call. And I kind of chuckled when I read that, but then I thought, that's me. That's absolutely me. And I can tell you that after having read that paper, I did it again. I do it again. So I think we've just started to become more and more of self-service type of people. And we want to do it ourselves, and we want it to be easy, and we want it to be fast. So we started looking at a chatbot. So relative to 311 in general, what's working and what are the challenges? There's so many what's working, there's really only one challenge. The single point of contact for question and services, brilliant. Easy to remember the 3-digit number. We have our phone set up now. We actually have 14 call centers. 311 is the largest. We have 14 call centers. When you call 311, you get responded to by a smart IVR that will ask you what you want assistance with. Based on your answer, your call will be routed to any one of our 14 call centers. So we're no longer using 311 like a receptionist, where everybody went to 311 and then you said, I need a really complicated permit to build a garage. And we sent you over to community planning and development. So 2 calls there. We have streamlined that so you get to the right call center, talk to the right agent in the first time. The additional service options has been something that we've been able to flex a little bit and grow on with the Online Services Hub and Sunny. This has allowed our agencies to devote themselves to the service delivery. I do not want someone in road maintenance talking about potholes. I want them filling potholes. And this is a way that we could carve out time and space compared to how it formerly was handled to give them time back to actually do the work. The integrated phone system makes it easy to transfer calls within the system. And the fact that most of my agencies who have resident facing services have been willing to create their own call centers has made that much easier. It used to be the call would do like a search, like it would ring at different people's desks to try to find somebody who was there. Those were called hunt groups. This has streamlined everything from the resident perspective quite well. The only challenges with a 311 is it creates a firewall between these agencies and their customers. So what I am constantly on the hunt for is agencies, simply because they don't know what they don't know, making decisions that benefit the agency and may not have taken the resident experience into consideration, because I'm holding on to their resident experience. I'm their buffer. So I would say and that could be, if you go to a state model, that's something you're really going to want to watch out for, is making sure that you find a way to feed back to the agencies their customer sentiments, their feelings about the work being done, the timing on the work, all that good stuff. You don't want to block them from that information. So 2020 comes around, COVID hits. All of a sudden, everybody's talking about AI. Here's what every IT director, here's a conversation every IT director had repeatedly over the last few years. Who are we? We're the bosses. What do we want? AI. AI to do what? We don't know. When do you want it? Right now. So that was kind of one of our, our recurring kind of themes was the AI is going to fix everything. Well, here's the kind of the reality around that. And often, and I apologize if it happens now, but often people ask me to come talk to them about AI. And when I start to talk to them about data, it kind of sucks all the air out of the room. But I'll tell you of lessons learned here, so you don't have to. Your best AI tool will be terrible if it is using bad data as its underlying root source. So for all the work you do on AI and how you use it and what tools you choose, make sure you're doing 1,000% vet on the underlying data you're going to turn it loose on, because that is as impactful as anything on the quality of the chatbot that you're going to get. So as we were going down that line and through a couple of stumbles, we kind of sat down in the technology department and we said, what is AI to us? What is it? Is this like going to redefine everything? And we just need to go and try to, leapfrog processes that haven't been looked at in years and data that hasn't been curated. And we found out very quickly that that was a fool's errand. It was not going to improve anything, really. So what Denver's determined is, for us, AI is not a strategy. AI is a tool. And it's a very powerful tool when we apply it to the right problems. One of the problems that we had was we were coming into a place where we knew that we wanted to spend more of our city dollars on things that would kind of stem the tide on some things, like homelessness was getting a little out of control. It was a lot out of control after we came out of COVID. And we wanted to be able to funnel as much money as we could to these initiatives that were going to make the downtown Denver area come back to life. We had sent everybody home. That meant all of our sandwich cart people weren't coming down anymore and selling sandwiches. We just had you could almost shoot a cannon off in the middle of downtown Denver in the middle of a business day and not hit anybody. And we really needed to reverse that, because that has so much impact. It has impact on finances. It has impact on who wants to continue to do business here, who wants to bring business here. And we have used huge tourist dollars that we depend on. So who wants to come and visit? And so revitalizing Denver needed to be a focus for spend. Everybody started looking at where can we do things cheaper. In 2024, 2023, I had 24 people that were taking calls for customer service and helping our customers. Typically, people held less than 2 minutes. They told us based on surveys that they got very good service, so that was all well and good. But I knew that there were things where AI specifically was going to be a very good fit for modernizing the customer service experience. I blame Amazon. They've ruined customer service for everybody who sits in a seat like mine. People will, when I started to talk about the idea of a chatbot to augment 311, people were kind of like, I don't know, we really like to call people who residents want to talk to a person, and I would ask the question, how many people in this room think Amazon customer service is great? Oh, now my Amazon is talking to me. And every hand would go up in the room. And then I would say, how many of you have ever spoken to anyone at Amazon? And virtually every hand would go down. And then now I've got them thinking along the lines of not them, their work persona, but them, their customer persona, them as a customer. And they started to become open to the idea, you're right, I really do self-serve much more often than than I even go into a store anymore. And I kind of equate it to, my parents' generation, who at tax time got in the car, drove to the tax office for their property taxes, wrote out a check, handed it to a clerk, and got a paper receipt, and maybe grabbed lunch on the way home. And that was fabulous. I can't even imagine if somebody said to the Denver residents as a whole, sorry, you need to come in and bring a check to pay your property taxes now. Like, that would not fly. We would end up putting liens on everybody's houses because they just wouldn't do it. So we really tried to look at, where is our audience going? Our audience is going to self-serve. So we looked at, what are the options? AI is a perfect fit for this. So before, kind of in parallel, I had to do two things. I had to find a good vendor, because creating an AI chatbot can either be turnkey with one type of vendor, or it can be build your own skyscraper with some of the big box type vendors. So I started with the big box, Google. I started with Meta, Amazon, all the big ones. And generally their pitch is, absolutely, we can do that. Didn't matter what I asked them. Absolutely, we could do that. My problem as a city government was I had no money and no resources. And I say that kind of flippantly, but it was pretty close. And so I found a smaller vendor who specializes in city and county governments. And they happen to be a neighbor of yours, kind of, in South Carolina. And we worked closely with them, and they really created a chatbot for us. They integrated the systems for us. We integrate with our CRM Salesforce, so people can use the bot to create their own tickets. So now I have a system where rather than having to call somebody or go to your internet and go to the web and find the right page to request something. You can literally just grab your phone and you can talk to Sunny by text. So you can, it's all over the website. It's on every page in the website. So what I like to do at this point is, rather than tell you about Sunny, is invite you to interact with it. So that short code, Hey 311, works anywhere in the country. So if you go into your smartphone and as if you were going to send a text message to a friend, and instead of typing in their phone number, you type in Hey 311, you'll immediately be talking to Sunny. You can't do any harm to it, so go in and play. It's GIS fenced, geofenced, so it won't let you report a pothole in Maryland, and nobody's going to come running out there to fix it for you, thank God. So feel free to get in there and play. You know, ask what do I need a permit to build a fence? How do I get a new garbage can? What's going on in Denver this weekend? And what we're encouraging people to do in their marketing, what we are doing in our marketing to encourage residents, is put this in your phone like a contact. And you drive past a pothole, click a picture of it, attach it, send it. And within 15 seconds, the road maintenance people will have a picture and a report of a pothole that they can then act on right away. So Sunny, from a technical tool, has been incredible. We measure satisfaction. Right out of the gate, we had about an 85 to 90% satisfaction by the users. I want to go back to data for a second, though. A lot of that success is because it took me 2 years or so to convince the powers that be in Denver that this was worth investing in. And I took all of that time to curate denvergov.org website. When we started, we had over 4,000 pages. We had acronyms all over it, which do not translate well in a bot. We had a reading language that was probably at least 12th grade, if not some college. So we took the language down to a 6th grade reading level. We eliminated as many acronyms as we could. We got rid of any duplicate type of information. I learned really quickly that, at least in Denver, the bad definition of transparency, government transparency, was throw it all up against the wall and see what sticks. And we hadn't done a very good job of curating our data. So we took the time to do that. And I cannot emphasize enough to you guys that the success of any automation you do will be either fly or crash based on the quality of the data that is at its root. One of the most interesting things we learned with Sunny, in Denver, we have historically thought that we know we obviously have a big English community. Denver has a big Hispanic community, so we knew Spanish was a big language. And then we kind of had a perception that if we got Vietnamese, like if we were doing notifications or, either back in the day when we had flyers, which we still have some of those, and even social media marketing, if we got Spanish, English, and Vietnamese, we felt like that we had struck the major communities in Denver. From the minute we launched Sunny, which has a capability to interact in 72 different languages, if you want to interact with it, you do not have to pick a Dropbox and grab your language. You just start communicating in your language and it recognizes it and responds back in kind. On day one, we started seeing an array of languages being used by people in the city and county of Denver that I think without fail blew everybody away. We get Finnish, we get Czechoslovakian, we get Urdu, we get all the Arab countries, we get the variety of Chinese languages, Polynesia, I mean, it just goes on and on. So far this year, we've interacted using Sunny in 42 languages. And what we found is that everything they come to us for can't be solved by the bot. So we have to eventually translate that over to a work order and get a person involved, and it's usually an English speaking person. And we bring in translators and we do all that typical stuff. But one of the things that's made the interactions, the subsequent interactions, so much more powerful is it makes a difference if the resident can express their need in their native language. They're not fumbling for words in English to describe what they want. They can describe it really well, really succinctly, and then we can kind of take that from there and go. So you eliminate that frustration by that non-English speaking person of, I can't even figure out how to tell you what I need. So lots and lots of wonderful data. I think you will find that you are much more diverse than you realize.
Laura, I'm just going to interrupt for just a second. I got
Certainly.
lost for a second talking to Sunny. I asked him about where I could find childcare, but I think we're running a little short on time. If you're
Okay.
able to wrap up in the next few minutes, that would
I
be
will.
great.
I
Thank
will.
you.
Yep. So, and then you have all the digital efficiencies, and there's one here that I think is it's worth going a little over on if we are. So when I look at my cost to serve, when someone calls an agent, calls 311, talks to an agent, gets their needs met, off they go. Most calls are 4 minutes or less. Off they go. That is a $4 cost to the city and county of Denver. The chatbot interaction cost me 35 cents. So I mentioned in 2023, I had 24 customer service agents. I had a under 2-minute average speed of answer and a 90% satisfaction rate. Today, I have 14 customer service agents, a 2-minute ASA, and a 90% customer experience satisfaction rate. So I've been able to drop the cost to serve significantly on 40% of my interactions, which is the amount that the bot and my online services hub is handling. So this is a unique moment in customer service history where people are clamming for your lowest cost to serve option. That has never happened before in my career. So to not take advantage of that is a miss. And I will say that while these seem like nice to have things today, I was in a boys and girls school yesterday where they just launched a digital center for kids starting at 8 years old. When those kids become homeowners, they are not going to send checks anywhere. They are not going to call us. They are going to absolutely demand that they be able to handle all this business work with the city digitally. And we're just on the cusp of learning how to do this and how to do it well. There's some go-to-market lessons, and I spoke about most of them, and you guys will have the deck, so I'll leave this. And then recommendations for Maryland. I suggest that you not try to recreate the phone system 311. It's too much data. It's too many different systems. It's too much data to expect any one customer service agent to be able to absorb. So what I'm suggesting is you start with a chatbot. You can give all the various cities and counties databases, their websites as the root data, and you'll be able to turn out a really productive product. The key will be the curation of the underlying data. And that's it.
Thank you very much. I see that Senator Cheryl Kagan has a question.
Thank you, Senator Hester, Madam Chair. Laura, you're awesome. Thank you for continuing to invest so much time and give so generously to Maryland through our journey in this.
I know one day I'm going to get a Maryland oyster out of it.
I think we're going to have to hook you up with something.
And I'm doing this for the oyster.
Yeah. Well, Senator Rosapep is here and Delegate Feldmark, and they are just two of the real, and Delegate Hill, so in addition to the chair, there's just so many smart people on all of this. So thank you. So two things. For those of us who are unaware, we've been working on exploring a statewide 311 in Maryland for many years, as Laura referenced, and the work group that I chair has gone very, very well. Sarah El-Alami from the Department of Information Technology, DLS, and others have just really contributed, and we have no opposition. The one piece, Laura, that I just want to make sure is in this conversation, you talked about the per call cost. Could you tell us how much it was to set up Denver City, Denver County when you first launched, and
Yes.
how big a check you just wrote this year for 1 year of service? So those numbers, I think, are going to startle my friends and colleagues.
I think you're right, and I was remiss in not calling that out because it is amazing. The first year, which was the build out, the integration with Salesforce Marketing Cloud, the training of my IT support people, and the actual launch was under $2,000, under $200,000. This year, since we're past launch,
Right, Jim?
this year, since we're past launch, it actually came down to $78,000. Now, here's the kicker, though. Here's the kicker. I told you we're doing 40% of our interactions now digitally. That's 40% of 750,000 interactions.
So just very quickly, Madam Chair, Laura and Denver just won a very prestigious national award for their 311. So we are students of the right folks. Vice Chair Rosapep, since when I got together with Chair Gazzoni and talked about this, Senator Quarterman has been my partner on 311 and chairs the governance and looking at the fiscal issues. And we got a rough back of the envelope of $400 and something thousand to go statewide in Maryland, so less than $500,000, and we lost our minds. We said, even if it's doubled, tripled, quadrupled, it's less than $2 million. And Chair Gazzoni was like, okay, wait, where's my checkbook? Like he was ready to sign the check right there. It lowers lowers the burden on our 911 centers, Delia Feldmark, as we've been discussing. It provides statewide customer service for our residents and visitors. And we use AI in a way that is just extraordinary, safe, and private. So very exciting. Laura, thank you. Madam Chair, thank you for letting me speak.
And I will say this, Sunny's actually won a number of awards. The most prestigious probably is from CIO magazine. We won CIO 100, so one of the 100 best technology efforts in 2025, and I'm super proud of that. But I want to tell you, you guys, Denver's here for you. We want to help you learn, take all the best of what we learn and avoid all the worst. If you get the right vendor, another very important thing is our resource drain on my technology service team was almost zero. It literally was a handful of phone calls to allow my vendor to get access to our systems, and they did the work for us. So choose your vendor carefully. Cheryl knows my recommendation, and then lean on us to help you through the build out and the launch, and we're here for you.
Bless you, Laura. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. And
My
thank you for your
pleasure.
continued leadership, Senator Kagan. Senator Rosapep, do you have a quick question for Laura?
I hope it's a very quick question. I apologize. I've been in and out, so I may have missed this. But I get it. Makes sense. I'm all in. I'm very forward leaning on implementing AI for everything we can do it with. My question is, what applications did you think of and they turned out to be not a good idea?
Well, Dr. Kashim, when he was talked about, and the questions that were posed to him were around bias. And we are looking at AI. I wouldn't say we decided no on it, but we decided that we need to plan for, with much of AI that replaces city worker work or augments city worker work, we need to insert human in the loop steps in the process. And then from a long-term perspective, how do we prepare to protect ourselves from these things when we don't have people like us on these decision-making boards anymore? Everybody grew up with AI, everybody just trusts it, and off it goes. That's my bigger fear. I think we've got enough people right now, as this is new, who are looking to protect against things like that. But right now, I think we pretend we don't have a huge bias issue because it's at the individual human level. This actually can potentially give us an opportunity to actually see data that represents how bad is our bias. and then look at creating, because then you can re-engineer it.
Absolutely.
You know, you can once you know it. If you my marching orders day in, day out in my life is, if I cannot measure it, I cannot manage it. So whether AI turns out to be a great tool to ultimately do what you want to do with less human interaction, translation, let's be honest, less cost, then, but before you even get there, just getting the data into AI and getting AI calling out those things you're looking for, like bias, will help you make better decisions going forward, whether your solution incorporates AI or not. That's why I say 311 and City in Denver, we're saying AI is not a strategy. AI is a really, it's like I've got the biggest power tool in my toolkit right now that I never had before, but not everything needs a sledgehammer, right? So it's like, when do I use the sledgehammer and how do I use the sledgehammer? But if a Phillips head screwdriver is what's needed, that is not going to work. So I often caution, especially kind of, it becomes like an ecosystem thing of, when do we want AI now? What do we want it for? We don't know. You know, that was kind of half joking, that slide, but it is a tool and it can be used in different ways to do different things really well. And it is not a throw it at everything. And if you have 20-year-old processes that you haven't improved, you still need to do that. If you have data you haven't curated in a very long time, you still need to do that.
Thank you.
Delegate Hill, do you have a very quick question?
Really quick. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. How do you define and track your error rates, and have you improved them with the system you described?
Yeah. So we let I have someone who reviews the transactions. As the bot use is getting bigger, that's getting a little bit harder to do. So now we're doing a percentage of the reactions, but we also give our users the ability to tell us that it's not working for them. So a thumbs down. And if the bot perceives that it hits a wall where it's not able to satisfy the user, it translates into a message, a free-form message to a 311 agent who will actually call the person back. And then that agent will get with my bot people, my bot tenders, and we'll figure out why it didn't work. So it's very much it's a nuanced process. I look at my overall satisfaction rate for the bot to tell me in general, am I doing well? Right out of the gate, we were at 85% plus. Most days we're around 99, between 89 and 92. And we do look at every one of them that says thumbs down, and we figure out what it is, and then we can massage the data. What we normally find, though, is the problem is not with the chatbot. The problem is the agency underlying that the question is being asked about made a change in their process and procedure and did not update their website.
Makes sense.
Imagine, right?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Well, thank you again, Laura. That's great to meet you over Zoom, and thank you for all your support of the state of Maryland. We've got a lot to learn, and we've got great leadership here at home to do it.
Okay, I'm pleased to be able to help, and yeah, save an oyster for me.
Okay, will do.
Thanks,
okay, so we are now moving on further west across the country to Oregon. I'm pleased to introduce Nathan Singer, Director of the Oregon Eligibility Partnership within the Oregon Department of Human Services. They have also developed an internal chatbot tool that helps staff navigate complex eligibility systems covering medical, food, cash, and child care benefits for more than 1.5 million customers. And for this work, the ODHS has received the American Public Humane Services Association's Award for the best use of technology. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Nathan, and we are so glad that you're here. We are running a bit short on time, so brevity is key, but we're really glad that you could join us today by Zoom. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chair, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Nate Singer. I'm, as you've heard, the Oregon Eligibility Partnership Director. I'm going to share my screen, but I'm going to move through. You've already heard most of the key things that any state should be doing, any individual should be doing is looking at technology related to areas. I think you have really good messaging. I just appreciate the work you're doing. As shared for the state of Oregon, I'm responsible for eligibility operations and systems. So both the staff that do the work as well as the systems on behalf of 3 state agencies. So consolidated underneath those agencies for the work. In Oregon, there's 4.2 million people, and over a third of them receive some sort of service directly from us in the state of Oregon. And so how can we support them? But more importantly, how can we support staff? Here's a whole bunch of numbers, things. It's good. We're going to pass it because that's not important for you today. It's in your area around it. But basically, we serve a lot of individuals. As you've heard today, just kind of setting some context, I'm going to talk about our bot specifically that we use, but we use AI in different ways across our state. There are multiple types when we talk about artificial intelligence. As you've heard from your own committees and as you're aware related to this, we have our rules-based AI that had really predefined rules and scripts. You say A, B, or C, the system automatically returns C as a response. We have robotic process automation where it can automate repetitive rules-based tasks. Then we moved into large language models and generative AI, which really allowed us to create new content for the first time, where the systems were able to work through that. And then we're moving into agentic AI, where really it's that planning, reasoning, and able to cross with large language databases and people and do a further service for individuals. In Oregon, these are just some examples. We have a lot more actually than on here of things we do. We have our basic chatbot. Google, I know, is on here, and you all use inside of a service. We have a basic chatbot that's rules-based. We use robotic process automation, similar to what your agencies were sharing earlier today, to automate return mail. That's a good example. We're able to, I'm going to say eliminate a whole unit, but we're going to actually repurpose a whole unit and move those staff to other priority work by automating all the areas through it. We're using large language modules to do translation works, to do activities to increase the way we communicate, pay stub automation, and then I'll talk about EligiBot, our internal tools. And then we're building out interview bots. So when people come and apply, both on the staff side as well as on the person applying side, there's someone there helping them move through these areas. But today, really wanted to talk about, just for a minute, what we built internally inside of this. So EligiBot's a cute name staff gave to it. We give staff the opportunity to provide input around how they do these things. And the goal really was, what could we measure and do to be able to help out with our workload and make sure we're providing accurate and quality information. In the state of Oregon, we've seen our caseload grow significantly. Oregon has expanded medical, childcare, and SNAP eligibility over the last 5 years. Our caseload has grown by over 600,000 additional individuals without the staffing. The legislature, in making decisions around it, we are funded at 43% of the staff we need. And so to the tool analogy, we needed to find a way to be more efficient. We couldn't continue to sit in the same way. As you've heard from Denver and from your own agencies today, we know people want to interact differently. We have a mobile application that the second oldest person in Oregon utilizes. It's different than what people assume. When they say, oh, a senior's not going to use this, I sit there and go, they use it every day in their lives. Not everyone will. We have people inside of it, but we look at what we can do there. And so what we really did was look at how we can build out an internal bot. And I'll give you some stats around this in a second. But you can see here from September of 2024 to June of 2025, we basically looked at what we could do to build this out. You heard around the importance of data. One of the key things for us is for our staff, this was really focused on internal staff and helping them. There were over 550 unique resources that the department had for them to do their jobs. Some manuals up to over 1,500 pages. How am I supposed to tell someone what they're eligible for and engage with them if I'm looking across 550 different resources and trying to find something in those documents? It's prone to errors, taking time, and frustrating for staff and individuals. And so we said, how can we bring this on here? One of the key things for us is, because of our organization, we own all those resources. So we wanted a process to make sure our data was clean and able to be updated and curated and brought into the system on a regular basis. So we did that and rolled it out slowly, partly because of the fear of AI related to it. But I'll share kind of our uptick here in just a minute. This is just a picture of the AI bot and a response. It's blurry because I took a terrible picture. I should have given comms the job to do this or AI to do it. But as we look towards it, what I want to share is it doesn't look fancy. We didn't want to overwhelm related to this. Basic areas related to it, a picture related to it. But you can see in there, it gives a quick response to the staff. It has the materials. They can click and go to the core materials and respond related to it and provide information that they needed for these programs. Again, if you combine in many states, Maryland's similar, where you have staff and counties doing work across multiple programs, just taking medical and SNAP program, the amount of rules in the federal government related to this on top of state specific rules related to it are more than the entire tax code by the United States government. That means we put tax accountants through school to get their degrees. Our eligibility workers come in and we give them training and expect them to go over more rules, more different complexities as we go through these areas. So what did we see related to this? In the first 90 days, we answered over 104,000 questions. You'll see a savings number listed in here. What we really did is look at the number of hours that we had savings. We went into this knowing what we could measure. We have a lot of data and systems we were measuring, and we also then worked with staff to validate the measurements. We knew how long staffs were spending looking or searching for materials. We could see both systematically as well as from their narrative or surveys what it was taking. And then we just simply looked at what it took to do it through the bot. As we looked at it, there was thumbs up and downs, but also chances for staff to put in auto responses and fill in information about if they disagreed with an answer. It really gives a chance to build this out. Overall, as I mentioned, when you're 43% funded, you need to save every person you can. 26 FTE savings a month. For myself, that is thousands of more applications I can process timely around benefits, give correct answers and information related to it that the legislature doesn't even bring in. And our costs related to this, at that time for the first 90 days, we were spending $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month for 26 FTE savings is the easiest sell I would ever need to do anywhere. But I didn't have to go to the Oregon legislature. I had the funds. I repurposed funds internal to this. And that's one of the unique things that we did in Oregon. We talked to multiple large vendors and they each pitched their, small multi-million-dollar approach to doing this. We already had the software. We had staff that were doing some of this work in our IT areas. And so we pulled 4 staff and said, can you build this out for us? We put a business person with them. Can you build this out for us? So a total cost of $130,000 to staff one-time builds related to it, build out a bot that now exists for us and is being replicated for child welfare, for other Medicaid case managers. Their internal bots are being replicated at a pace so that way every individual can do it without that additional cost now. We built it out, been able to do it, and being able to then just continue to go to it. Our cost right now per month is around $3,000 per month because we've increased our number of users and questions. We have over 50% of staff using it on a daily basis now to be able to provide them assistance in other areas. And that's with the soft launch where we're not requiring. We want staff to be able to find it. It's word of mouth as they grow inside of it. Each day, literally each day, we get to see growth related to it. This is just the enterprise tools. And my point on this is not to say anything around it, but to say from a procurement standpoint, that's always a difficult part for us of which tools and which vendors are we going to use. In this case, we already own all these enterprise tools across in Oregon. So it was use the tools that we have. Let's see what we can do with what we already exist inside of it. And then this is just showing these are daily type dashboards we look at. So again, this is a little old as we look towards it, but we can calculate daily ongoing cost savings, $418,000 in rediverted cost savings that I could use towards staffs other times in other areas. We can see the number of answers that we had and what are savings, the minutes saved by workers for eligibility workers here totaled up as we ramped up around it, and that continues to grow. Here is just the topics. Again, looking at what you want to measure, we wanted to make sure we could take this data and know what people were asking and really adjust around it. So I can see where key areas are. In Oregon, we have an opportunity to improve around our SNAP accuracy. We took a lot of flexibilities for that program. Sorry, SNAP, our Supplemental Nutritious Assistance Program or food stamp type program. And so we knew we needed to improve. You can see one of our major areas is income and SNAP that staff ask about. So it gives us a chance to see, are we hitting the right areas? Are they using the tools in effective ways versus, mentions at the very first of, is AI going to take my job? That actually was a high area on the first day or two. It quickly moved into what was actually valuable for them. And again, here's another area where we want to see feedback. So not just feedback that we have a positive, negative, but why was it unhelpful? What information, each of those boxes we can drill down to, et cetera, and go and see what we're getting around the work, where people report inaccuracies. Again, we have a business person that can review this daily and go into our documents and make sure it's updated. Of the 173 reported inaccuracies, only one was actually an inaccuracy. It was not the bot's part. As you heard earlier, it's our own internal area. We update every document every Thursday. And so we know it's going to be updated Thursday. And so we just added a note to let staff know this is when you would expect the bot to provide that updated information as we provide updates into there. The other 172 times, it was a chance for us to train and inform staff on correct information. So for lessons learned for it, one thing I just want to share is data is important. You just heard that from Denver. You have to have good data, good information cited, but also don't wait to start until you have perfect data. Do not let that get in the way related to it. Have a process to update it. Going into the bot, we're doing this with our child welfare agency right now. As they go into their bot, they're finding a number of resources had conflicting information. They're getting to clean that up through their initial pilot of the area internally to it. Make sure you have a business owner, content manager. This needs to be a partnership. I am not technology. I am the person when technology works for me, I'm happy. When it doesn't, I throw a fit. I'm business, I'm operations. And so being able to have us involved is important. And really, again, focusing on things you're familiar with. These are tools. That is a very important. This is not, the magic solution to everything, but the right tools matter as they use it. And these tools can significantly help as we move through areas. As we look across it again, both cost savings and time savings around our work has significantly improved. We see a 4% increase in productivity from just the initial pilot related to this, which again equates to multiple thousand applications, improvements in theirs. Accuracy has gone up by another 3% related to it. And again, at a national scale, when I'm working at it, 3% is a big move when I'm sitting in 80, 90%. These are not big swing opportunities, but it's consistently going there. And each month we're able to see that. And again, just continuing to work with staff. I encourage to have end users, whether it's your individuals that are using this work, your agency staff, to be involved related to it. With that, for time purposes, glad to answer any questions or all the rest.
That was awesome, Nathan. Thank you so much. Maybe just stop screen sharing for a second so I can see if we have any final questions. Senator Rosapep.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting presentation and very exciting. I got two sort of related questions. One is error rates are a big deal in SNAP. Error rates are a big deal in Medicaid. Why will this reduce error rates? Give me the theory as to why it reduces error rates.
Yeah, Chair, Senator, as we look at this information,
Jim.
I'll give you the theory and a little data actually that we can see at this point on it. Staff have to go through and provide correct information. In Oregon, for a SNAP error rate, 60% of them are inadvertently client caused. That means they're outside of my control completely, and other than through interviews and the rest. 40% though are inside of us for Oregon.
Got it.
Got it. Improve. So as we do it, if they can get correct information, correct answers, and go through there and avoid those mistakes, this is only going to help inside of it. These are complex rules and situations of does this apply for Medicaid or SNAP? So really looking there. For staff that utilize the bot, they are 80% more accurate. Okay, 79.66%.
Okay, no, you convinced me. No, that's what I was looking for. What's the theory? That you answered that question brilliantly. Second question is, are you looking at the specific question of the new Medicaid work requirements? Because obviously everyone is kind of deep into that, and we're deep into that. And in theory, the state has most of the information that make this work. And we're talking about how do we integrate all our data, and obviously AI can help do that for sure. But the other issue is for folks we don't have data for. I have a constituent who was a longtime human service, social services worker who worked on all the paperwork. And she said, I'm not an IT person, she said, but in 2025, can't we make this easy for the people who are getting benefits to get good information to us? And I said, it should be possible. So my question to you is, how do we do that?
Yeah. So again, Chair, Senator, yes.
Jim,
Yes,
Jim.
yes. Jim, yes, please. You know, it's always different states, all the rest. Yes, please. So from there, yes, that's what we're looking at is we have a lot of data internally. We know people that are already working, but if they have to turn in verification of their education or the community service events, knowing also that SNAP work requirements and Medicaid do not align and completely, it should be an easy portal. I should be out on my phone, take a picture, have someone do something, push a button. And so one, we've pushed every big vendor to say, every state and territory in this country has to do this. So this is like, it's a terrible budget time nationally, but it is the easiest sell time ever. Come up with a solution, but make it easier on the consumer. It should not fall on the back of staff. Do not send papers or paperwork. So we are looking at bots to do that on the front end, to grab that information, help someone come through it. That's an agentic AI approach.
So it's in the works.
It is, yes.
Gotcha. Well, keep in touch with us, please.
Will do. And I appreciate, just so you all know, your agencies and areas have been great partners with Oregon. We continue to talk across how we're going to handle Medicaid and SNAP changes. So thank you.
Great. Super. Thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
That's great to hear, Nathan. Thank you so much for joining us. In the interest of time, I'd love to just ask you a question and follow up, but I was just curious when you said, you know, you pulled 4 staff. My question was about, like, is your IT centralized or not centralized? Where do those staff come from? So we'll talk offline, but thank you so very much. You guys are doing great work. Committee members, we are running just a touch over. I am certainly willing to stay on till 1:15. If you guys have to jump, feel free. I will record the whole thing so you can watch the reruns. But our final presenter today is from Google. We have Christopher Mead, Head of Customer Engineering, State, Local Government, and Education from the public sector. And they have several examples from other states that they wanted to share with us. So once again, Christopher, we are so happy you're here. Those of us who will stay on will do, but I've previewed your slides and they're great. So just keep in mind the time crunch, and I will turn it over to you.
No worries. I know how these things go. Thank you very much for the gift of extra time. So thank you to the chairs, thank you senators, thank you delegates. I have, based on the feedback, reworked and out the presentation, and I will share the information as
Chris, I think we've lost you briefly.
And yes, it appears that I'm trying to share. Am I back?
You are back now.
Okay.
Can you try again to share?
Yes, it restarted my browser when I tried to share. Let me do it one more time here. Okay. Can you see this?
We can see it. Yes, thank you.
Right, fantastic. So look, this is going to be a bit of a buffet, but I really wanted to highlight the examples that we've seen across the U.S., a lot of which has been spoken about earlier today. 3 broad categories, and of course there are many use cases for the use of AI, but the ones I want to focus on are how we impact citizen services, how we can build for a better economic future, and also how we make every one of us more productive. Listening, especially to the last 2 presentations, it really is about not adding additional workload, but making every one of us more capable inside our roles. So look, I have about 12 examples here. I'm going to be extremely brief, and then I'll probably just take some questions. During COVID, Illinois Department of Human Services, there's a project called Project Beacon, where we combined services delivery through a number of different health and human services organizations, as well as the intake of that information, creating a singular portal for citizens to be able to submit information. And that was very transformative in terms of that organization's productivity. Wisconsin, which is where I'm joining you from today, it's actually my home up here in Madison. was the Department of Workforce Development, where again, kicked off during COVID, the systems were effectively inundated by unemployment insurance applications, many of which were publicly stated, still being received by fax machines. So being able to reduce and eliminate a backlog of something close to 700,000 applications in a matter of months down to a catch-up was made possible through the use of AI's automatic ability to look at risk inside documents, digitize documents, and help the human in the loop, as was discussed earlier, make that informed decision and get to that end result more quickly. New York City, MTA, we've been working with the MTA to replace or improve the productivity of maintenance workers rather than having to continue to, for example, walk tracks to inspect the condition of them, using devices to analyze shock, to analyze sound, and predict with a high level of confidence where potential issues might be, and then allow that staff to redirect their focus into the high risk areas, or the most likely areas for there to be a concern. In Nevada, this is an interesting one that has been an outgrowth of some of the earlier projects that I discussed here, and this is about automating and making adjudicators for unemployment much more effective and much more powerful. We talked briefly earlier, or it was spoken briefly earlier, about how do we make this easier without creating additional workload for staff or making it unnatural for citizens to interact. In this scenario, the system will perform interviews based on state law and based on other regulations with the employer, with the affected individual, coalesce that information, look for gaps and conflicts, conduct follow-up interviews, and then bring that along with the transcripts to an adjudicator to make an accelerated and more informed decision. So for us, this is an example that can really be relayed into a lot of the new demands that we are seeing that require us to be able to collect more information more quickly in a very natural manner, and still have that human in the loop, that decision-making process be performed by staff. Two examples here of transportation, both in Texas and in Oklahoma. This is really around predictive traffic flow, as well as automating the monitoring of infrastructure, allowing the AI to perform analysis on data that is collected. I fully agree with earlier comments about the garbage in is garbage out. You need to make sure that you have as much good data as you can, and when you don't have a complete picture, understand what that risk is. Krista's view is still progress forward, but do it with an eyes wide open approach, that you need to recognize this might be a POC, this might be a test bed versus something that can be easily moved into production. There are a number of examples around how we are trying to improve outcomes by helping focus on economic future. This very recent, I think, is in June. We opened a partnership with the University of Maryland system for education in AI, improving AI skills among students. Anyone that is in that system, resulting in a Google AI certificate that will help them understand a bit more of the art of the possible, become more comfortable, and really understand how the tools have changed since, as they do every 6 months. I'm going to very briefly, Allen Institute, we collaborate with them for creating open source foundation models that are really focused on research and science and medicine. These models and their weights and their training data are all made publicly available. Wayne State University, this is a multifaceted partnership that started out also with the city of Dearborn and focused around how do we improve the process of the community health needs assessment, as opposed to creating a static report that exists as that going forward. How can we automate the collection of surveys of individuals in the city? How can we create, and this is what we ended up doing, creating a portal that dynamically updates in near real time with the latest information, that then not only allows you to very quickly create a community health needs assessment to be sent to the proper authorities, but also gives you an interactive platform for the other 364 days of the year that you can use to answer questions and to really empower your employees to make informed decisions. State of Oklahoma, similar process, similar to what we do in other states with Growth Google, and this was largely tied to a diversionary program where the intent was to identify high-risk individuals in the state and redirect them with new skills. A number of these cases where they have become employees of different agencies in the state of Oklahoma, which has been a fantastic outcome. Hawaii Department of Transportation. This is about making future decisions with the view of how climate change will impact the infrastructure of the state. And then the last category that I'll dive into here is examples of these are a little bit more gray, but these are measured examples of how the tools in general can help us as or you as employees or your agency employees really perform the day-to-day job at a higher level. So state of Colorado, as you can see here, using it to automatically summarize large documentation and improve the communication skill. This is a POC. Indiana Department of Transportation responding to an executive order that required them to review mandates of many agencies across the state and was able to condense the amount of time that took considerably. And then the last is a little bit of a segue and just a comment that quite often AI is considered as just that tool or that direct tool. One of the approaches that we take with the many different platforms that Google has is how do we improve the functioning of those existing tools, of those existing applications with AI, and how do we do this in a responsible, measured way? And management of cybersecurity is certainly one of those. Bad actors use AI, the good actors certainly need to as well. So allowing those who are on the state side to span across a much larger set of data, analyze it much more quickly, and be able to keep up with that ever-changing landscape is a really good outcome. Again, I will send this information through. Happy to take questions. Thank you for staying extra, and that is it for myself.
That was fascinating, Christopher, and I appreciate you going at breakneck speed there.
No worries.
I have one question. I don't know if anybody else has any. I was just curious, out of all those examples that you showed us, where do you think the biggest cost savings are for a state like Maryland?
Yes, so I think that the largest cost savings that I've seen probably in general, I think would apply in Maryland as well, is a scenario where you have a lot of heavy document analysis that is done by humans currently. So again, unemployment adjudication, or when we're taking a look at benefits analysis or benefit redetermination, every one of those that takes a lot of human time to analyze correctly. We find that is a step in the overall process that can be condensed and observed or managed as opposed to being done directly by an individual.
That makes sense. Senator Rosapap.
Yeah, thank you. We are piloting in Maryland AI high dosage tutoring. And it occurred to me listening to some of these presentations, are people using AI for counseling? I don't mean mental health counseling. I mean school counseling.
Yes, and I apologize. There are a lot of examples I didn't have time to get to. For example, we are rolling out with the University of Michigan a virtual TA, which is intended as that guide, and they have signed on 17 or 18 other universities to trial that with them. So that provides, it rolls alongside personalized learning systems, but the concept really is this counselor is present with you in your early days and as you go through your
No, I get it. I get what college TAs are, but I'm really asking in terms of public school 12 counseling, which is all about scheduling, all about choosing courses, all about that kind of stuff. That's incredibly time intensive, has to be personalized, and everybody's short of counselors. That's why I'm asking. Do you have anybody doing that to your knowledge?
There is, I don't have a ready example, but there are significant scenarios where with AI-driven personalized learning systems that are in place at the K through 12 level.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And one final question to leave you with, Christopher. What I've been thinking about is that there are these future cost savings, right? But sometimes they require this initial upfront investment. Have you seen another state where there's some kind of financial model? Like we used to do this with energy efficiency, right? Like you would make an energy efficiency investment and you get paid back over time. Is there anything like that with AI that you've seen?
I would say, and I think this model was described earlier too, in terms of like the year one outlay versus the ongoing outlay. I've seen that pretty frequently in terms of how we can measure over time and really start to see the clear payback in year 2, year 3, year 4. If I'm trying to recall the person who was talking about this, but was the concept is that once you have that tool in house, I think it was a gentleman from Oregon, you have the ability to then extend that capability much more broadly, horizontally across other use cases where that investment is then very minimal. That, along with the staff's ability to understand or comfort level to tackle other challenges, that allows you to skip past a full reinvestment of the same manner in which you started.
Yeah. No, I think for states that do like 1 year budgeting at a time, I'm actually looking for like a financial mechanism that we can use somehow to pay ourselves back in the future. So I don't know, there's probably like a market out there in AI savings somewhere.
Yes, I hesitate to get too much into the salesy side of it, but we do have financial constructs that allow us to be able to even out and also understand future spend without having to providing consistency across multiple years at 1 year at a time.
Right. Okay. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for hanging in there past the 1 o'clock mark. I do think that if you're able to send your examples through, we'll read them. Plus, there's more people watching, on the YouTube channel. So thank you so much. Thank you, members, for sticking with us. And look forward to talking with you all again soon. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, staff. Appreciate you all so much.